Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video right here at Commander's Brew YouTube channel. If you like what you see, hit subscribe, ding that bell so you'll know when things are happening around here, and check out some of our other playlists while you're kicking around.
And without further ado, let's get to our Commander-specific set review of Guilds of Ravnica. As we mentioned, this is going to be from a Commander point of view, taking in mind not all the cards, but all the commanders. We're going to go through the new legendaries, the new mechanics, and then color by color or guild by guild cards that we are worth discussing to see if they're playable in a Commander deck.
Right on. And like we said, this is going to be a pretty long one, so buckle in. But without further ado, let's get right into it here. Let's talk about some of these new mechanics.
Sure. So the new mechanics, let's talk about them. And are they mechanics worth putting in or worth building around in Commander decks? The first one we have up is Mentor. That's the one comes with Boros, the red and the white one. We all know how hard a time Boros has in EDH.
Yeah.
And I'm put a specific basic card as an example to explain it. This is Sunhome Stalwart. 1 and a white for a human soldier, first strike, Mentor 2/2. This card is not playable in Commander in general, it's too small, but what Mentor says is whenever this creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature with lesser power. So if you're attacking a lot, bigger creatures make smaller creatures better. I would be interested in this in a +1/+1 counter deck, but Mentor is white-red, and those decks are usually blue-green, unless you're Obzon and you got a little bit of white in there. So that's
you can have a Naya counter-y deck, like Marith or something, but yes, you're right.
Yeah, I guess Naya too, but like, it's only I don't predict a lot of it caring about +1/+1 counters. I think this is more for just aggressive attacking, and I don't think it's well-suited in Commander.
No, I don't think this is not a Commander mechanic. This is a limited mechanic for sure. And a pretty confusing one at that when you get a couple of different Mentor creatures on the battlefield. Like, I honestly think this is kind of a, I don't know, maybe a bit of a, not a mistake, but like this is more complex than I think they might have given it credit for. I think a lot of people are going to screw this up, especially on the online platforms and things like that. But Commander-wise, barely even worth talking about, honestly. I just don't see very many instances why I would ever include a Mentor creature.
Yep. All right.
Straight.
What's next?
All right, great. So next is the Golgari mechanic. It's Undergrowth. And Undergrowth is basically a keyword that sort of tells you that this cares about the number of creatures in your graveyard. The example we have here is Necrotic Wound, which is a one black mana instant spell with Undergrowth. And it says, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So all Undergrowth cards are going to be that. It's going to be some ability tacked on that cares about the number of creatures in your graveyard. I think of all the mechanics in this set, I think they all, except for I think they all kind of sit well for like a limited perspective and like all that. But this is the one that's the weirdest and hardest to get going for limited. But I think that this one is one of the best ones for Commander. I think you're gonna be, especially because it is only Golgari and because the graveyard is such a resource in Commander, that it's going to be easier to get these things to happen. That being said, it's a matter of like, what do they do exactly though, right? Like this card is not really playable in Commander, this specific one, but hopefully we'll see some others that are. I just think that you'll be able to set up Undergrowth pretty easily. It's easy to, self-mill yourself and things like that. So, and run a ton of creatures and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, I think you'll be able to get this going. It's just a matter of will the payoffs be there for it.
I think, like you said, I think the Undergrowth is the most in line with Golgari Commander decks are already doing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of decks that are already here, so throwing in 1 or 2 Undergrowth payoffs seems easy.
Yeah.
I might disagree with you. I think this card is actually playable in Commander. -X/-X and Exile, I think, is pretty strong for 1 black. If your deck does what it wants to do, you can probably get rid of 6/6s or greater fairly cheap.
I think you're just going to run the cards that say exile it. Just exile target thing. Mostly. I mean, I know that those are mostly black-white. But there's other ones. I mean, this could be the black Swords to Plowshares.
I mean, it's cheap.
There's a lot more setup cost involved, though.
True.
Anyways.
The next mechanic is the Surveil mechanic. That one comes with the Dimir Guild, the blue and the black. And Surveil, so here's an example of a counter spell with Surveil on it. So that's Sinister Sabotage, 1 blue for an instant, counter target spell, and Surveil 1. And what Surveil says is, look at the top card of your library, you may put it into your graveyard. So it's sort of like Scry, but instead of the bottom, they go to the graveyard as your alternate choice to the top. So this is one where, although, you know what, I didn't look ahead enough. If it's Surveil 2, can I put them back on top in any order?
I think
or
so.
Do I have to leave the order?
No, I think it's like Scry, but except bottom, it's a graveyard.
Okay, great. So, and in any case, that's almost always better for us in Commander because, you know, Scry is just good because you get to, like, see more of your deck. You get to cards you need to. You get to filter what's coming up in the next couple of turns. Putting things in your graveyard is only upside because we're probably going to use that as a resource. Mm-hmm. So I think and then Surveil is not one of those things we're going to build around, but we're going to keep our eyes open for cards that already do things we want to do in Commander with Surveil as a bonus, and then we'll consider if that Surveil bonus makes it worth running. So a 3 CMC counter spell, you know, maybe you have enough counter spells that you're going to want 1 or 2 of these. There's a lot of 3 CMC counter spells to pick from, and to get a Surveil 1, I mean, you'll know if that one is very valuable to you or not.
Yeah, like I've run Dissolve before, which is this counter is the same thing, but it's Scry 1.
Yeah, I mean, this is strictly better than Dissolve.
This is better than that, I think. So, like in most cases, yeah, this is better. So I don't mind it. I think Surveil is going to be a cool mechanic for Commander. I think you're gonna I like it. Just it's going to be tacked on to things that you're probably already wanting to do. Next we have Jumpstart, which is the Is It Guild's mechanic, and that's illustrated here on a card called Radical Idea, which is an instant, 1 and a blue, that just says draw a card, and it has Jumpstart. And what Jumpstart does is you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other costs, then exile this card. So everyone's drawing a lot of parallels between Jumpstart and Flashback, which makes a ton of sense. I think it's closer in mechanics to Retrace, though.
Yeah.
Right? Retrace is you can cast it from your graveyard by discarding a land card and paying its mana cost. You don't exile it, though. Whereas Radical Idea is discard anything, pay the cost, and but it does exile itself. So you can only do it once. So I think just like Flashback, though, getting back to that comparison, and Retrace for that matter, I think you're gonna love Jumpstart as a Commander player. It just gives you more card advantage, more options, making that graveyard a resource, even in decks where you weren't exactly planning on that being a thing. Being able to play a card and then play it again later is, I think, really great. I think it's, I think this is just a nice, clean, simple mechanic. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I do too. And the last mechanic in the set, it's not really a new mechanic. It's a returning mechanic. It's Convoke. And this is an ability where creatures can tap for mana. I mean, not technically. Are they tapping for mana? Anyway, you can tap creatures to reduce the cost of spells.
I think that's how it's worded,
the way they say is your creatures can help
pays. Yeah. No, it's
cast
pays
the spell. Okay, yeah. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 colorless or 1 mana of that creature's color. So you can tap creatures and end up paying 0 land mana for these things. This is just a basic 4/4 vigilant creature. It's a centaur soldier, 3 green-white with Convoke, but 3 green-white means if you had 5 creatures and at least 2 of them, one was green, one was white, you could pay 0 of your actual lands for this.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a way to get spells cheaper, token decks like Convoke, and we're going to keep our eyes open for excellent Convoke cards that we're going to want in token strategies.
Yeah, as it stands right now in Commander, I actually don't run any Convoke cards in any of my decks, but I think that's because there are really only a few that are worth it, right? Like there's...
I think Spore Swarm makes a list or two.
Like Spore Swarm. What's the one? There's the Concord... No. The one that you go get a creature, the tutor.
Oh, yeah.
Very popular card. Anyways.
Yeah. Chord of Calling.
Chord of Calling, right. I was going to say Concord and Crossroads. That's not
I wanted to say that too.
Yeah, Chord of Calling. yeah, so hopefully there'll be some other ones of like that power level. Otherwise, like in general, big creatures, you can get other ways in Commander type of thing. So Convoke tends to not be as good. But we'll see. Hopefully there's some new stuff that will impress us here.
Okay, great. Those are the new abilities. We've kind of covered those, so you're all set to go. Now let's talk about the new legendaries that are in this set. We're just going to go through these in alphabetical order as they came up. We're going to talk about if they would make great commanders if we want to brew around them, or if they're better suited for the 99, or if they might not go in decks at all.
Right.
So the first up alphabetically is Aurelia, Exemplar of Justice. 2 red, white for a legendary angel. She's 2/5 with flying and mentor. At the beginning of combat on your turn, choose up to 1 target creature you control. Until end of turn, that creature gets +2/+0 and gains trample if it's red, and gains... Okay, so yeah, so it gets +2/+0 no matter what.
Yeah.
And it gets trample if it's red and vigilance if it's white.
Yeah.
So Aurelia can choose herself and make herself a 4/5 trample vigilant flyer with mentor for 4 mana. That is very cheap.
Yeah.
And mentoring. So, like, if I'm going to pick her as my commander, I'll probably pick original Aurelia. I don't think I'll pick this Aurelia over original Aurelia. But this one goes excellent in that 99. If I want to attack with a bunch of creatures, Aurelia can make herself big enough to probably mentor another creature. Or just give that another creature big trample or big vigilance. So that's pretty good, too.
Yeah. This is like... I wasn't excited at all about this card as a commander, certainly, and no, definitely, and yeah, not even. I think they're just better stuff. I don't know. I don't. The efficiency is always a thing that we talk about in Commander. It's like it's the trade-off you make for higher power, and this one is leaning towards the efficiency. It's got great power for other formats, but I think in Commander you're not really going to see this too often.
No, I mean, if you're running a traditional Aurelia, I think this goes in your 99, but I don't think you'll see any new Aurelia Exemplar of Justice.
Does original Aurelia already have Vigilance?
Haste.
Haste,
yeah,
right.
She does. Haste and Vigilance, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you're just giving her trample with this.
But, I mean, you get the second combat step, so at the beginning of combat again, you get to choose Aurelia a second time and give her another +2/+0.
Yeah, that's decent.
I mean this Aurelia helps big Aurelia get her 21 commander damage in one combat.
Yeah.
Turn.
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that does that though.
There is. I mean, but like, I mean, if I open this in a pack, I'm gonna put it in. I mean, I'll probably sell it because I think it's going to be an amazing standard card. So
yeah, and I think we're gonna like hear that a lot with these guys. So okay. Aurelia, like I'm pretty lukewarm on this card. And it does not excite me.
I'm not excited about Aurelia either.
Looking at the next one in alphabetical order is Amara. This is one I was very excited to see, okay? Because they're making a new Amara. They kind of screwed up the old Amara. Let's see how they did with this one. Amara, Soul of the Accord. I mean, I think you're looking at the game day version of it, or the whatever. Soul of the Accord. She's green and white. She's a 2/2 legendary elf cleric. Whenever Amara, Soul of the Accord becomes tapped, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. Oh, okay. Well, I think that this is not that good. As a commander, there's just the 2 mana is nice. And if you somehow built around tapping her and untapping her, but I think you need blue for that, you know, like you might put this into like a Derivi or something like that, some kind of deck like that. But man, Amara herself as a commander is not impressive. A 2/2 that makes a 1/1 when you attack with her, or I guess put an aura on her and tap her or something. I don't know,
it's weird that she can't tap to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and then for my purpose, I mean, maybe,
or tap for some other thing, like tap for another ability, like give someone +2/+2. She can tap.
I just don't see like it's going to be hard because the way you have to jump through a hoop to tap her, either have a vehicle or an aura or attack with her. I don't want to attack with her. She's a 2/2.
Yeah.
And to get that, I mean, I like that I get a soldier for no other mana cost, but it seems like the the cost to get that rolling is too high.
This also, if I change that green to red, would that seem out of place at all? No, right? Like
no, that seems fine. That actually seems like a very strong Boros card.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm sure you could do that for a lot of stuff, but this, when I read this card, I was like, this sounds like a Boros card. This sounds like what the red and white deck in this format wants to do.
Right.
Like attack and make soldiers, and so and I think there's also stuff that makes like 2/2 elf creatures in this. So why doesn't she make that?
Yeah.
Why does she make the 1/1s that are the Boros soldiers? Like, why does she make soldiers? She should make elves. She's Selesnya. Ugh, brother. Anyways, it's not great, and maybe if you can put her in some 99s of some decks, like I think maybe if you put her in the new the Bant Enchantress deck, and you had a lot of tapping and untapping going on there, maybe. But other than that, I don't think you're gonna see this deck or see this card played a lot.
No,
bummer.
I don't think it'll show up at all.
Yeah. All right. Well, what's next?
Okay. Trotta the Silencer. 2 blue black legendary vampire assassin. This is the Dimir one. So Itrata, who I always want to call Irata. There's a mistake on
Irata the Silencer.
So she's a 3/5. Trotta the Silencer can't be blocked. Great. That's awesome on a commander. Yep. Good for Voltron, maybe.
Very good.
Whenever Itrata deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on that card. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters on them. Itrata's owner shuffles Itrata into their library. So, if this is your commander, you won't shuffle her into your library. You'll put her back into your command zone, and you can cast her again, and she can't be blocked. So the following turn, you'll attack. You'll put her back in your command zone. So now for the third time, she'll cost 8, and she can't be blocked. And if you hit a player 3 times over that amount with that amount of mana, you have eliminated them. You don't win the game, but that player loses the game.
Yeah.
Now, this is problematic in Commander I see for a lot of reasons. One, she costs more every time you cast her. So you have to spend your entire game just recasting her, getting in, recasting her, getting in. You're not developing your board or doing anything else. And if your other opponents are like, oh, you're going to take care of that opponent, so we're not going to do anything for them, sure, we'll just hit you then. like you don't get to, like, that becomes your job now to kill that player because they're just gonna
because they're gonna spend everything to come at you and Trotta because they don't want to lose the game because they got hit 3 times.
Yeah. And I just feel too that and you can't even sneak around with double strike, because if you put double strike on her, the trigger will happen after the first strike, and then she'll get shuffled in and she won't be there to do her double strike.
One thing you can do though, I think, is much like the deck I think you built last week, was it? Where there's a lot of blink abilities, those instant speed blinky things. You can do that. You can get the hit in, and while her ability's on the stack, blink her, either to come in at that end of combat or right away, and then that trigger to put her back into the owner's library or the command zone won't apply to this iteration of her anymore. But it will still exile the creature with a hit counter and all that.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's great. I think that's the way we want to brew around this. I still think it's way too much work for way too little of an effect. The fact that, I think she's fine as a 99 in a Dimir deck as decent removal. Because she's going to get through and she's going to eat a creature. And, I don't expect your opponents to it's a possible win con, right? I wouldn't make her as a commander, but if she shows up again, it's well, I'll hit you again.
When it gets down to 1v1, she's a serious win condition, especially if you brood around that ability and kind of abusing it. But yeah, it's just you need to hit 3 times. It's well, every commander needs to hit 3 times. If they get big enough, if you're running a Voltron deck, you need to hit someone 2 times or 3 times or whatever, right? So I don't know, man. It's neat. It's a cool ability. And yeah, like you said, maybe that's what we should be looking at, is more of a look at her from a removal perspective, she comes down, something maybe gives her haste, and she comes in and immediately takes out the biggest creature that a person has. Like,
even without haste, like if she's in your 99 and she's on the board, you're just like, hey, nobody cross me or I'll Trotta one of your creatures away. Like,
yeah. As a commander, I feel like she would get a lot of hate because no one wants it to attack them.
right.
Because if she's your commander, you've got ways to abuse her. So yeah, I think it might even turn into one of those real like hated commanders. As a 99, it's way less intimidating.
Yeah.
But yeah. In a Blinky, like in an Esper Blink deck, she could be really good.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, well that's promising. That's kind of cool. Better than the first two, I would say. Let's take a look who we have next here. We have the Golgari legendary. It's Izoni?
I've been saying Izoni.
1,000-eyed. 2 and then 2 black, 2 green. So wait, have we seen? No, yeah, we've seen a lot of like single mana colors. So this is kind of going back to the old style of doing the like guild leaders, right? Where there was always 2 and 2. So anyways, this is a 6 mana legendary elf, 2/3 with Undergrowth. When Izoni 1,000-eyed enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token for each creature card in your graveyard. And then pay black, green, sacrifice another creature, you gain a life and draw a card. Okay.
Yeah.
Not super exciting, but you know, I like that ability. Like sack a creature, gain a life, draw a card. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, and you're probably gonna. I mean, let's assume your deck is meant to put a lot of things into the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're going to cast your commander. You're probably going to get a handful of insects. And then...
yeah, and then you can jump block them or sacrifice them or bump them up or something. I think at first glance you go, oh, this isn't really a great commander, but it's probably pretty good in some 99s, right? Like I think it's great in obviously like Gave or anything making a lot of fungus. Like this is a cool fungus deck card, I'd say. Could even be a commander there. Though you're probably going to go with that one fungus like lord that's legendary. I can't remember the name of it. But actually I think Izoni is one of those like lower powered but fun to build around commanders, right? Like this will be your graveyard token deck. So this will be like this is like your spider spawning commander basically.
Yeah.
So I think actually I think this is a fun one to deal with. Her ability is not so flashy, but it's definitely very useful. 6 mana is a lot to pay for a 2/3 though, you know?
I think she'll be an interesting brawl commander.
Yeah, she will be. Yeah. 6 mana, 2/3, but you're probably going to get a couple creatures with it, so it's not that bad. I just wish she started at like 4 or something, you know?
I know, for 6 mana, you couldn't be a 4/4? Come on.
And the trade-off is that like at 4 mana, you're not going to have, on turn 4 rather, you're not going to have, like for standard or whatever, you're not going to have that many creatures in your graveyard, I don't think.
I don't know. I mean, in standard, Stitcher Supplier is wrecking, like Undergrowth is like crazy because of that card. So I think they had to tune it down a little bit. I don't know.
Well, it's just a shame, but yeah, I think Izoni is decent and has a fun deck there, although not entirely super high powered or anything like that.
Yeah. Let's go one more. Let's go to Lazav the Multifarious. Costs black, blue. Lazav is a shapeshifter, 1/3, very cheap commander. When Lazav the Multifarious enters the battlefield, surveil 1. That's just bonus. We like surveil. X. Lazav the Multifarious becomes a copy of target creature card in your graveyard with converted mana cost X, except its name is Lazav the Multifarious. It's legendary in addition to other types, and it has this ability. So this is Lazav's thing. Lazav's becomes creatures in your graveyard. Old Lazav, it just happened when your creature went to the graveyard. This Lazav you get to choose. I think the biggest difference between old Lazav and new Lazav is the old one had hexproof, which made it really brutal. But this one is very easy to deal with, and there is something to be said to just because old Lazav you got one chance to become that creature, and if you miss your chance, you couldn't do it again. New Lazav here, you get to be any creature in your graveyard at any time, which is very useful, but the cost seems very prohibitive to me, because the only good stuff we want to transform into, I would suspect, are huge things. and we're
Yeah.
gonna have to
Well,
spend 8 or 9 to do it. Well, I mean, because we're not gonna get ETB abilities with
True,
Lazev.
true.
Lazev doesn't enter the battlefield, and most of the 3 CMC, 2 CMC creatures I like in Dimir have ETB abilities.
That's true.
Like your Muldrifters, your Baleful Strixes. I mean, yeah, maybe you could turn to a Baleful Strix for the defense, but I don't want to use my commander for that purpose.
Yeah, no.
But like, so you're gonna want creatures with tap abilities and creatures that have attack ability, or that are just excellent attackers.
Good utility creatures, the guild mages, things like that are good. But like, is that really what you want to do with your commander? Turn him into a guild mage?
I don't think I do. And if I did want to turn it into like a Sheoldred or something, it's going to cost me most of my turn to do that. I mean, now it's a Sheoldred for the rest of the game, so that's good. I mean, in a sense, if I want to look at it backwards, it's like, okay, so it's basically you're able to cast a creature from your graveyard, and then you have it for a while. I don't know, but it's worse. I don't know. I don't love it.
It's a reanimation spell. It's essentially letting you not cast again because you're missing out on that ETB, but it's letting you become a creature in your graveyard without like exiling that creature from your graveyard, which is kind of good. You can have 2 legendaries this way. Let's not overlook that. If you have some legendary thing in your graveyard, and then you can make Lazav that legendary and then reanimate that legend, that whatever legend that is, like that is something that's possible. Big difference also between this and the original Lazav is that the original Lazav cared about your opponent's milling. It was only opponent creatures going into their graveyard.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so it was like mill your opponents and get the rewards. This is mill yourself and get the rewards. So pretty big difference there. But this is a very fair ability, and for Commander, we like abilities that we can abuse and are very unfair.
We don't like fair.
Yeah, we don't really like fair. Now, I think there's a room for fair. You know what I mean? Like there's room for fair, and it can be really fun, and you can actually have a great time with fair. But yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the high power levels, this isn't really there. But there are some things like abusing the legend rule is a real thing, right? Like that is something you can do with this card. That, as we've seen with stuff like Helm of the Host, sorry, is a powerful ability, and to have 2 legends is great. So you're restricted in that you can only, if he's your commander, you only have blue-black, but there's lots of good blue-black legends. There's lots of good blue legends and black legends. So I don't know. I think to me, that's the thing that I would try to abuse. Otherwise, you're just paying for the creature. Very fair. Yeah. Very fairly. I'm not super stoked about Lazav, but I don't think it's bad or anything. It's just okay. I don't know how I feel about most of these.
I can't imagine a world though, like we're running up to this thing where you're like, I mean, I might as well just run like the decks they point us towards. There are superior commanders that do what those decks do anyway. Mm-hmm. So unless it's for a flavor thing, like I'll probably just use old Lazav if I want to like transform a bunch. I don't know.
Yeah, if that's your thing, if you want to transform. If you want to reanimate your own stuff as blue-black.
If I want to reanimate my own deck, I'm not even doing blue-black. I'm probably doing I'll probably do old Sidisi or something like that.
Well, what if you did want to do it? Let's say because that would be the thing, right? It's like, so I want to have a Dimir Reanimator deck. What's my commander? Probably, I mean, it's still fairly pricey, but Scarab God is really great.
Scarab God is the most effective.
You've even got stuff like, I don't know, this like Silumgar Steel stuff. Zadok, the original guild leader for Dimir. But when he hits, you mill. Oh, that's defending player. Never mind. That you wouldn't even do that. So I don't know. Actually, might be the best Dimir Reanimate legend now that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Sure.
The Tadgh, the 5-mana Tadgh is okay too, but you have to skip your draw step, which is always bad. But anyways, Gisa and Geralf is like, if you ever did zombies, like you just pick them instead because you can cast zombies. Anyway, so there's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. There's it really depends on what you want to do. It seems a little narrow to me though, right? Like that's that.
I agree.
You're putting restrictions on it. It gets kind of narrow, so it's not amazing. I'm not that excited about it. All right, what's next here? We have Niv Mizzet, Perun.
Perun. Perun.
Perun.
I don't know what that word is.
This one's one of the
Prune.
earlier Prune. Niv Mizzet. Prune. That's what he is. He's just an old
His
dried
face
up plum.
is kind of
He is
pruny.
pretty pruny, yeah. Niv Mizzet, old person prune. He's one of the, I think he's like one of the first legends that was spoiled from the set. He has a crazy mana cost, 3 blue, 3 red. So like very demanding mana cost, in addition to being kind of expensive at 6. But all the Niv Mizzets are 6. And if you have a Niv Mizzet deck like I do, it's not that bad. Legendary Dragon Wizard, 5/5. This spell can't be countered, which is pretty sweet. Because yeah, his ability's all right. He's a flyer, obviously. And he says, whenever you draw a card, Niv Mizzet Perun deals 1 damage to any target. And then whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. So it's got the same ability as which Niv Mizzet? I never remember which one is which. I think he has the same. He has the same as Firemind, which is the good one. Whenever you draw a card, he deals a damage to a creature or player. So he's the same. He's the same essentially. He's harder to cast as Niv Mizzet the Firemind, and he has this other ability. And like I said, this guy's been out for a while now. Like he was one of the first things. So there's been a lot of discussion about it. A lot of people saying like, big deal. This is the same as Firemind, except that he's either worse or better depending on the deck he's in, obviously. But I think. I don't know. I don't know if this is better because I love the idea that any player plays an instant or sorcery, you get to draw a card. That's sweet.
And do a damage.
And do the damage.
Right?
The fact that he can't be countered is real because that's a real thing because, a lot of times in those Niv Mizzet decks, Niv Mizzet is like the final piece of the puzzle. So you get all your stuff set up and then it's like, okay, then I'll cast Niv Mizzet and I'll go off basically, right? And then next turn I'll go nuts and people will just counter your Niv Mizzet or something, but they can't do that anymore. Especially since like Niv Mizzet sometimes is the only card you have that does the thing, right? That does the damage. So that's why it's the linchpin in a lot of the strategies there. Harder to cast, but really you're only really putting in blue and red lands anyway. So it's not like it's not like he's going to somehow be the commander of a 3-color deck. So that is a pretty small price to pay, I think. You just have to watch how many like colorless lands you're using.
I think this card is, we can't say strictly better because there's enough subtle differences. But I think overall, generally speaking, this is better than the other Niv Mizzet. I think, as you said, the cost doesn't make a huge difference.
I'm thinking about it now, and I'm just thinking about all the times like when that extra, like needing 3 red or needing 3 blue, like that is a real cost. That is not.
It's a real cost,
super easy.
But okay, but I want to look at how you can't counter it, and instead of tapping, so old Niv Mizzet had to tap to draw a card and do a damage. Yeah. So you could do that whenever you wanted. That's definitely, you're more in control of that. That's very good. But that's only ever going to be 1 card, right? Mm-hmm. You can't tap twice, right? Unless you have crazy shenanigans,
which you do.
But like now, like your 2 mana draw a card becomes 2 mana draw 2 cards, do 2 damage. All of your draw spells draw you an extra card. If your opponents want to deal with Niv Mizzet once he's hit the battlefield, it's probably via an instant or sorcery, so you're going to get that card as a replacement automatically, unless it's like some sort of like creature kill thing. But that's something that didn't happen before. And the tap only meant, like your opponents will be casting spells. You'll probably draw a couple of cards as, if the players let it get back to your turn. And then, you get to run more, like all of your like windfalls and all your wheel spells. They draw you an extra card. They just do bonus damage. I think overall the pros outweigh the cons. I think this is my preferred Niv Mizzet.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting this card, putting it in the Niv Mizzet deck and or trying it out as the commander and seeing how it runs. So pretty good though, right? Maybe it's a bit of a improvement on our old Niv Mizzet, but like how disappointing is it to you that this is basically the same card.
It's disappointing to me that it's basically the same card. I was hoping for a new thing, but now I get to run that deck in Brawl, I guess.
Even harder in Brawl, but yeah.
Oh, it's very hard. But like, I mean, you can't do there's hardly any wheel effects. You can't triple blue. There's not that many dual lands. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
it's gonna be. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I don't like. I think it's a little disappointing that you. Why not just reprint it then?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll
like,
take this.
Why go through
I'll take this over a reprint, but oops. But like, yeah, I just. And it's not even that I wanted Nivir to do anything radically different, I guess. And I guess this is certainly not that. But I don't know. I guess maybe maybe it's just a little tough to please when you're dealing. I mean, we talked to Gavin Verhey about this on a previous episode, and like designing around a card and a character that you already have that does known to do these things. It's like you can't stray too far from that. But you know, because if you do, then it doesn't feel like it's that creature anymore or that character, and then but you can't just do the same thing you've always been doing. And I think this just falls a little bit too close to just doing the same thing, like basically exactly the same thing. Like you could have, whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. Great ability, no complaints about that at all. The fact that now he does just like, but it's that same ability on him again. That's the part that's a bummer. Like,
what would you feel about this? How would you feel about this? Does this sound Niv Mizzet or not Niv Mizzet? I mean, because Niv Mizzet is going to do damage directly, right?
Yeah,
that's part of his thing.
of his thing too. Yeah, you're
so,
right.
like, what about like whenever a player casts an instant sorcery spell, you draw a card, and then maybe it was like red blue or like one red blue. Target. Like what I'm going for is like whatever CMC of the spell that's being cast right now, do that much damage somewhere.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
So you can snipe opponent spells. You can be like, oh, does that cost you 4? Cool, I'll do 4 here. Or you could do your own to do more damage.
That's interesting. Yeah, see, that feels very different and cool,
but
and
does
still
it feel
very good.
enough like Niv Mizzet?
I think it does. Yeah, I think it definitely does. Yeah, because it's drawing cards, it's dealing direct damage. I mean, I think you nailed it there. I think you actually made a really good visit.
Well,
is that too
Seattle,
good?
Here I come.
Is that too good? Maybe it's a little too good, but
you just cost it right.
Yeah, just cost it correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, we just designed a better Niv Mizzet, but but certainly this one's not bad. It's just kind of like ho hum because we basically already have this creature. Oh well.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Moving on to the headliner from the Boros Guild. This is Tadgh Legion's
No, he's the opener. Aurelius for sure.
The opener. Aurelius the headliner. This guy's the opener. Yeah. Tadgh Legion's Edge, 1 red-white for a human soldier who is 3/2 with haste. It has Mentor, and it says prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. And then red-white, Tadgh Legion's Edge gains first strike until end of turn. The first thing I want to point out is the picture. This guy wants to be Sun Titan so bad.
Yeah, totally.
He's like, do I look like Sun Titan?
Do I look like Sun Titan yet? Here, what if I do? What if I hold it this way? What if I put this hat on? Yeah, I guess you look like that other Sun Titan.
So as like, I mean, Boros gets such a bad rap because Boros kind of does one thing, and this guy doesn't do much different. But I will give him this: the ability to prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to other creatures you control. A lot of Boros cards that have that text only deal with combat.
Yes.
So basically, he doesn't help you in combat. Like he doesn't prevent combat damage, but he prevents non-combat damage. So now all your blasphemous acts, all your like all of those kind of Mizium mortars, they become one-sided board wipes because your creatures don't get damaged by them.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And in a Boros deck, that's good. Like, you know, and there's a few cards that deal X damage to all creatures on the table. Your Pyrohemias become excellent with this guy down there. So I think this guy enables a certain kind of Boros deck we haven't fully seen yet, and I'm on board with that.
But he still dies to those things, though.
He still does. So then you got to put the Darksteel plate on him or something.
Yeah, you got to make him indestructible, which is funny because the original Tadgh is indestructible.
Oh, like, so weird.
Not having him be indestructible too is interesting. I mean, that probably would have been way too overpowered, but Yeah, I mean, I never saw that angle. I actually like that angle. That sounds really fun. But I think other than that, he's kind of a 99 Boros person just to protect against other. But like, how direct damage isn't really much of a thing when it comes to creature removal in Commander. It's definitely more of a go to face and kill, try and kill everyone with a big earthquake or fireball or whatever. But it does prevent against those things, like you were saying. So I don't know. I'm not excited about it as a commander, except for that one kind of deck that might be something. Otherwise, yeah, it's just kind of he's kind of a creature that gets pay 2 mana to give it first strike. That's nothing. That's
nothing. Did I forget to read that part?
No, you did. You read
I did.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just like whatever though. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yep. So just aside from the one like kind of niche deck you could probably build, I don't think this guy's very good either. Ooh, okay. Finally, we have one more legend, and it's another Selesnya. Did we get 2 from everyone? No, we've only got 1 Golgari. That's interesting. But I guess they get a different type of legend.
Planeswalker.
Yeah. So the final legendary creature from this set is Trostani Discordant. 3 green white, 1/4. Other creatures you control get +1/+1, so she's an Anthem. When Trostani Discordant enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. Again, making soldiers. And at the beginning of your end step, each player gains control of all creatures they own. Man. I love the original Trostani. I think it's one of my favorite commanders ever. Just because the combination of things it does, you build around, it's so fun. There's such a myriad of decks you can make with her. Even though it seems like you only want to do one thing, you can actually do a couple different things with that Trostani. Is this Trostani going to be the same thing? Are we going to be able to do many different things with her? I don't think so. An Anthem for like those token decks is okay. Being able to make 2 tokens, but it enter the battlefield, like that's again fine in Commander. The best thing about her in Commander, I think, is that last ability, which is pretty niche ability, but a powerful one when it is relevant.
Oh my god! Yeah,
there have been games where like people are stealing your stuff, and like all you want is this ability. It's just like give everyone back their stuff, please, so the person who's stealing everything can just stop.
You can't. I mean, you have less to fear with an expropriate with this because everyone's going to get those permanents back.
Yeah. Any kind of big reanimation.
Well, actually, it does say creatures. It doesn't say permanents.
Oh, you're right. It is creatures only.
So blatant thievery can just take enchantments and then.
Oh god, that's still pretty bad. Yeah, why isn't it everything? Ugh. Anyways,
I don't know. Here's where I get so frustrated that it's like, would it have been so bad to say permanents they own? Would that have been so bad for a standard?
Yeah, no. No.
I mean, maybe it is. Maybe there's something I'm not seeing. So okay, I have to give them that. But it really seems just like, from a commander point of view, just change that word to permanence, and it's like, okay, great. But like as is creatures, it's like, oh, that's not really the thing that I care about the most.
Yeah. So for limited, this is a great card, I think, right? Because you get for 5 mana, you get a 1/4 and 2 2/2s
with lifelink.
With lifelink, which is amazing. Yeah, I think that last bit is probably not super relevant. But in Commander, like this is, I don't know, man. I don't think this is very exciting at all. What a bummer.
Yeah.
Ah, man. And as this is the final legendary, so like she doesn't have anything unique to build around at all. She's an Anthem and she makes 2 soldiers. It's like, I guess I'd make her the commander of a soldier, of like a 1/1 soldier deck or something, like a green-white soldier deck. Trostani could be that person because she's, but even then, is she even that good? Would I just rather have the original Trostani or something else, right? Like,
the thing that burns me is that I want to build around, building around the Anthem means go wide. Yeah. Building around creating soldiers means soldier deck. Building around getting back all the things you own means, ooh, I want to trade my bad stuff for your good stuff. Wait, yeah, and then, oh wait, but then you'll get it back. Yeah, I can't even do that.
You can't build around that last ability. That last ability is just something that hoses people who are trying to steal your stuff, hoses blue decks and black decks specifically.
I guess if you could trade one of your creatures for one of their non-creature permanents, you'd get your creature back.
That's a reach of a
Big reach.
I don't even
Big
know
reach.
what even does that. That's a blue ability for sure.
I know, that's the problem. That's where my mind goes. I'm like, I want to brew around that, but I can't with these colors.
Yeah, you can't. This is an ability we've seen on other green creatures before, and like I said, I actually think it's meta dependent, right? Like if someone's running, I don't even know like what deck it would be, but like reanimating your stuff from the graveyard or whatever, right? Or
Just a lot of control magic.
yeah, control magics and things like that. Yes, these cards are great in that, but that's very meta dependent. It's very much pretty narrow situation. Not excited about Tristani Discordant. I don't even think I'll put it in a deck.
Yeah.
And I have a couple token decks. At least two that are green white. So, and like maybe I'd put it in my original Tristani deck, but
This is what I was referring to earlier. Like the green white token decks are very strong already. For a card to become a new commander of one or a new 99, it has to do something amazing. And this one is like very good. It does very good things, but the bar is too high for our format.
so this is the section that we always take the most time on per card, because this is the section we mostly care about, right? This is the legendary, this is the commander section, really. We're about to move on, but before we do, I did just want to say, like, it seems like to me that they actually haven't created any of these cards for commander. They do create cards with commander in mind, but I think for this set they haven't. I think it's like pretty clear. Actually, I think like aside from Niv Mizzet or maybe even like Azoni, I don't think they really have. Is that a bad thing? Is that a good thing? I remember a long time ago the professor was talking about how he didn't like that they made cards specifically for commander, and I think that there's a point to be made there, and I think that in this set you're seeing this is kind of what happens when they don't, right? They push legendaries for limited, standard, maybe even modern. Commander doesn't look like it's been given a real big consideration here. What does that mean? It means that you kind of have to like you'll see creatures and be like, oh, like Azoni, right? It's a good example where I was like, I think there's a fun deck to be made there. It's not going to be super high power leveled or anything, but I think there is a deck there that we've seen a deck similar, but like, yeah, she heads up the spider spawning deck, like that ability. That's what she wants to do. So while at the same time being like not at all excited about any of these commanders, which is a bummer to say, they kind of have to reset the power level every once in a while. And I think this is it. And I don't know. It's just too bad we didn't even get one that we're all like so jazzed about, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's still 2 more sets to come for this block.
Sure, yeah.
Right? So we're going to get the other 5 guilds for the next set. And then we'll get, who knows? I mean, in our interview with Gavin, he promised our minds would be blown. So
yeah, well, it certainly hasn't happened for this one.
Yeah. But let's move on to so the next category. So we're going to break down we're going to go by color or by guild or by colorless or by land, etc. Just cards, and we're going to discuss their viability for commander. We're going to start with colorless cards because these go in any deck. There is really only one colorless card worth talking about, and it's our preview card. It's Chromatic Lantern. This is just a boon for reprint purposes. It is currently pre-selling for less than $5, which is way down from the, like, what was it, 15 getting up there, maybe 20. So it's a 3 mana artifact that taps for a mana of any color, and lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. So it's the ultimate 3 mana rock in that it makes all of your lands tap for anything that you want.
I will tell you right now that this card was $15 before it got reprinted. So if you're thinking about buying these, and you want to like, oh, should I pre-order them now, or should I wait till the set comes out so that they drop? Generally speaking, cards do drop in price once the sets actually come out, right? People will always like generally overvalue them at pre-sale, and then
Yes.
you know the market gets hit with them, and then you see a price drop. But I think that, and I think that will happen. I think you'll probably see these down to like $3, $2-3 or something. But you're not gonna lose out much if you buy these at pre-sale. If they're selling for $5 now, they definitely will get back up to be more than that, unless they're printed again in the next set, which I don't think is going to happen.
Well, and the other thing to think about too is like sometimes I don't pre-order cards because I'm like, oh, I will draft it a couple times, maybe I'll open one.
True.
But then I don't open one and I forget to order one, and then I'm like, oh, now it's back up to like more money. So like it's almost just easier if you're not as organized like me, just to get a couple now.
Yeah, like I'm not saying like rush out or pre-order these right away, but like if you're thinking about it, I think you're like, and you're worried about like, oh, will they drop $2? Like you're not going to miss that $2 when these go back up to $10, $12, $15 a piece, right? Like you're going to be just happy that you have them. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to pre-order them if you want, but you could also just wait, do a couple drafts, do that pre-release, see if you crack one or two, and yeah. But this is the best card in the set for Commander. Let's just say it right now, no question.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
card's
for
amazing.
sure.
Best mana fixer around.
Best of their, yeah, for sure. But let's talk about some specific cards. Let's talk about white cards.
Yes.
We're going to name a few white cards. The first one I want to highlight is Bounty Agent, 1 white creature, human soldier, 2/2 with vigilance. So it's very cheap. It's not huge, but it's got vigilance. Tap, sacrifice Bounty Agent, destroy target legendary permanent that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. A white creature that can just add instant speed, destroy any other commander that isn't a planeswalker. Pretty decent.
Yeah, I don't like that it doesn't say Planeswalker.
Yeah,
or
right?
just permanent. Like, why can't it hit a land? I think that's lame.
And it has to be a legendary.
Yeah, so like if it just said destroy target legendary permanent, like what's wrong with that? It's a rare. Like, what's wrong with that? Why can't we?
I don't know.
I mean, I'm guessing for standard purposes they didn't want it to hit. They didn't want it to hit Planeswalkers, which sure, but like, man, let me hit a land with it at least. Then it's like a lot better in Commander, especially if you're playing against people with real big budgets. How many
legendary lands are there anyway?
There's some good ones. There are definitely some good ones. And again,
That's true.
If you're playing in those metas that run them, it'd be great. But
okay.
we're not going to miss that too much though, right? So like, I think this card is okay. It's really good in like Abzan stuff where you can reanimate this and bring it back.
Sure.
But yeah, decent little card. Next is Citywide Bust, 1 white for a sorcery that says destroy all creatures with toughness 4 or greater. I like this card for the token decks. Surprisingly, this is like what, like Elspeth's not ultimate, the -3 ability.
It is,
Elspeth, Knights Errant or Sun's Champion. Yeah. Which is a great ability and is a great commander ability. So this is actually, I think this is going to turn into a decent commander card. For the most part, yeah, I think you're going to run this in like go wide, low to the ground token decks, and then you're probably just going to run regular board wipes over this in other decks, I think, probably. So, you know, it's not like it's going to be a staple or anything, but I think you'll see this pop up.
Yeah, it's interesting. The 4 or greater takes care of a lot of creatures that we care about, and a lot of commanders too.
Yep.
Next white card is Crush Contraband. 3 and a white for an instant. Choose one or both. Exile target artifact. Exile target enchantment. This card is excellent. It gets rid of 2 tricky permanent types, artifacts and enchantments, for the cost of 4 at instant speed, and it exiles them. It doesn't destroy them. This might be a new staple. We want to, because this is going to get compared to Return to Dust, which is a 4 mana instant, but if you cast it at sorcery speed you get 2 permanents, but if you cast it at instant speed you only get 1 permanent. This will always, like, this is always faster and easier to cast than that one because you always get the choice of 2 permanents. You just can't get double enchantments, you just can't get double artifacts.
That's the downside, and sometimes you really do want that. So it is a real thing, but I think that being said, this is easier to cast. You can always do it at instant speed. I think this card is as good. I'm not going to say whether, I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I mean, actually, I kind of would lean a little bit towards Crush Contraband maybe, but it's at least as good. So I think this card's amazing, and put this in every white deck.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Next, we have Dawn of Hope, which is one and a white for an enchantment that says whenever you gain life, you may pay 2, and if you do, draw a card. So nice bit of card draw there for white, which is always a thing that we talk about that they are missing. And then 3 and a white, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So how good is this outside of a deck with dedicated life gain? Because this obviously creates its own ability to gain life, albeit not a super reliable one. It's just a 1/1 soldier. But it's there, you know. It kind of reminds me of the artifact that when you play a land, you can pay 2 and draw a card.
Yes.
It's kind
yes.
It reminds me of that more than the card that you so bad with card names. I don't know what happened to me.
I'll start looking them up.
It's the card that it's like you get, whenever you gain life, you can pay that much to draw that many cards.
Yeah.
That card's really great, obviously. In life gain decks, better than this. Well of Lost Dreams, that's the card I'm thinking of. So yeah, what's the difference, right? Like this is every instance of life gain you can pay 2. Whereas, like, if you gained 1 with Well of Lost Dreams, like, it's, again, that card's just better. So what about this? What about this not in a dedicated life gain deck? How do we like it?
In a not dedicated life gain deck, I don't like it.
So you don't even think you'd put this in just for the occasional
No, it's
card?
if I never gain a life, if I never get to make a token creature, I have no other ways to gain life, this is a full dead card. This card does literally nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I would want ways to gain life incidentally through other things, and then I'm happily running this card, but only in that deck.
Right. So you do kind of need to lean towards life gain if you're running this card in a commander deck.
I think so. Maybe you want like tokens, and you're like, I just need more ways to make tokens, but I still think we can have more efficient ways to make tokens.
Is it worth just putting in like what's it called there? The ones that, like, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you draw a card. Like, I think it's a very good. I think, like, I think you're right. I think you're totally right. Right. Like, unless you have a way to repeatedly gain life, this card is not actually that good. So I don't even think you can really say that it's like, oh, it's card draw in white, because any white deck that is dedicated to life gain probably runs black as well. So, like, this isn't really going to help Boros all that much. Although, like, Firesong and Sunspeaker, this is a pretty good card, probably, right?
Yeah,
and like those, Brian Stararm, like, this is like the red white life gain decks. I guess this is a nice card for that. Anyways,
I just wanna point it out because anytime a white card says draw a card, it's worth noting for our format.
Yeah.
Because it's a difficult thing white has to do. I'm always gonna highlight cards that do what a color is not so good at doing.
Yeah. And yeah, this still is a good card in those white-black decks that care about life gain. All right, moving on.
Ooh, Divine Visitation.
Ooh.
3 white enchantment. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. What? So yeah, like this, it turns all your tokens into Sarah Angels, and
yeah.
So like. And I guess we have to ask ourselves, at what point does a card just become win more? Like if you're a token deck, you're probably going to run Anointed Procession to get double the tokens, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you need them to all be angels? Is that a little bit much?
It's true, you don't. But it's so fun to do that. It's so good.
It's so fun. And I just, like, there's a real tricky balance with this card, though. I don't know where it lies. Like, it's not automatically, I don't think it's just automatically every token deck wants to run this, because, like, you know, the effects that don't generate tokens, you have to limit those. And
yes, it's true. Yeah.
If you're already this doesn't help your game plan of creating tokens. It just makes more
better
wicked tokens.
Yeah. More wicked. But I think it's significantly more wicked.
Significantly more
4/4
wicked, yes.
angel creature tokens with vigilance, like that. It wasn't even necessary to make this card amazing. But the fact that they made them Sarah Angels is insanity. They really put that over the top with it. So, like, you know, I'm just thinking, even in So the one deck where I have a Tristani deck that's all about like bigger tokens, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't make 1/1s at all. It can make wolves. That's the smallest tokens it makes, but generally it makes like 3/3s, 4/4s, makes angels, things like that, right? And bigger than that. Even in that deck, I think I might run Divine Visitation, just because it upgrades all your 3/3s to not only be one power toughness bigger, but flying and vigilance, right? Like those abilities are very important. That's one great thing about it. So even if I would make a normal angel token in that deck, now it has vigilance, like which is already like admittedly that's a fairly small upgrade, but it's still a pretty good one. So
I think it's important to note in your example, though, that your commander's making tokens too.
My commander populates. It doesn't, like you said,
that's true.
It doesn't actually make its own tokens, but yeah.
But that's a big difference, right? Like if your commander can make a token, like in Reese the Redeemed, baby.
Yes.
Like no
exactly.
problem.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I mean, right? So like, no longer you're making 1/1s that you need to buff up now. Divine Visitation has it all in one package. Gives it evasion, gives it a vigilance again, which is stupid because it's a very good ability in commander, right? And it makes them bigger. So like this is an anthem, it's evasion, it's defense all in one package. I think this card is bonkers, and it basically goes in, I think, every token deck. I really do.
I think you're gonna want to try it on everyone, but I'm not convinced. I still think there is a world where like you have to pay you can't cut a token maker for it. You have to cut something else.
No,
I think this replaces your Anointed Procession.
This replaces any anthem. I think.
Yeah.
That would be even remotely close to this cost. I'd say like you'd be.
Yeah.
But then then though it doesn't. And to be fair, like it doesn't do the same thing an anthem does. You can drop an anthem, have it buff up your team, and then attack with it, and all of a sudden you're attacking with a really big team. You can't do that with Divine Visitation. This needs to come down first before you start making the tokens, right? So that is a consideration. So maybe it's not just a straight trade for any anthem, but I think you can find a place for this in your decks.
You find a spot.
Yeah, you find a spot. You do. All right,
fine.
Bonkers.
Those are all the white cards.
Yeah.
Those are all the white only cards. We're gonna do the cards that are multicolor that include white later on.
Yeah.
But let's move on to some blue ones.
Blue. Here we have mission briefing. Blue for an instant that says Surveil 2. Then choose an instant or sorcery card in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. If that card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So you basically it kind of gives something in your graveyard flashback.
Yeah.
But you get to Surveil 2 before you do it, so you might toss one in there. I think you need to have a deck that cares either about instants or sorceries or graveyards, and I think that's enough decks that actually this card is pretty good.
I think this is budget Snapcaster. It costs you 2,
True.
and you get a spell back. So I feel all of those decks that if you can't afford a Snapcaster, get one of these.
Yeah, not exactly the same. Obviously, being on a creature is pretty valuable, but yeah, it's kind of one of those cards of like return an instant or sorcery to your hand. Again, which in the decks that want it, it's a nice, really good ability, and I think you can only cast it this turn, so you need to be able to cast it this turn. So I don't know, that might actually be kind of a.
But I feel like the reason Snapcaster is so good is because it costs 2 and it gives you access to your whole graveyard at instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, they have to be instants anyway, but that's what it's for. So like if my game plan includes casting another big sorcery, I can do that with mission briefing on my turn. But if I hold up 4 blue, I can cast a counter spell at instant speed using this if there's one already in my graveyard.
Yep, agreed. Those counter heavy decks are going to love this card, I think. And yeah, I honestly think it's good enough in enough decks that want to do a pretty specific thing, but I think there's tons of those decks, so I think this card's actually going to be great. It doesn't go in every blue deck or anything like that, but I think it goes in a lot, and I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Next up is Murmuring Mystic, 3 and a blue for a human wizard that is 1/5. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue bird illusion creature token with flying. This is another in the series of like the Talrand, where like when you cast instants or sorceries, you get a flyer. If you have a deck that wants a lot of those things, this is a powerful thing. Any blue deck that casts a ton of instants and sorceries, these kind of cards turn your counter/control/draw cards into threats that must be dealt with.
Absolutely. And in some ways, this is kind of better than Talrand because it's not legendary. It's a 1/5, so it's much harder to deal with. Like it blocks easier. Like Talrand's only a 2/2, I think, right? For the same mana cost. Now he makes 2/2 Drakes, which is a fairly significant upgrade, but 1/1 birds are not bad. Like, I think you're probably just going to run them both in the same deck, obviously, but I like Murmuring Mystic quite a bit. Maybe there's a little space in this for in an Epic Experiment for this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of redundancy with Talrand, so it's nice to get these abilities.
Yeah, I like this card. Next we have Omni Spell Adept. I think this one was spoiled by the Commanderin crew, right? Great card here. So 4 and a blue for a 3/4 human wizard, and he has the ability pay 2 and a blue and tap it. You may cast an instant or sorcery card from your hand without paying its mana cost.
For 3.
For 3 and a tap.
And I think it's important to note you can cast a sorcery from your hand without paying its mana cost as well as an instant, and you can activate this ability at instant speed. But does that change the timing on it? Are you able to do that?
I don't think so, right? Because this allows you to cast it, but I think it still would have to obey the timing laws. No?
I don't think it does. Because there's been other effects like this that lets you do a thing.
Yeah. Huh.
Right?
Man. Okay. Well, yeah, I know what you like. So there's one version of those cards that lets you do it outside of the timing restrictions, and then there's one that doesn't. And I think you're right. I think this is the one that lets you do it, lets you break that rule.
I think so, because the activation itself is not restricted by timing. And so I put that ability on the stack on your turn. Yeah. And it says I'm allowed to do this.
It does. It lets you. It allows you to ignore the timing restrictions. That is confirmed.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, and not pay for them.
and not pay for them.
Not pay full price for them. Like, you're essentially paying 3 for it, but that's incredible. This card's bonkers. And speaking of like Epic Experiment, like, this doesn't help the actual card Epic Experiment, but remember when we were talking about like what's your plan B, right? So plan B in that deck is to just get a bunch of mana and cast big spells. So this is gonna help there. Like, I don't know if I put this in or
but then what about like you're gonna cast your Rise from the Graves or Rise from the Tides? What's the one where like you make as many zombies as per instance and sorceries? Yeah. That's a sorcery, but I want that to be instant to do it on your opponent's incept to then have all these zombies to go nuts with.
This card is bonkers. This is a commander card. Like,
yes.
I guess putting this on a commander might have been too good. Yeah.
maybe.
Probably too good. But like, this is the thing. I'm like, oh man, I just wish this was on a commander. But obviously this card's amazing. Like, this is 10 out of 10. This card's crazy. It's a lot of setup, right? It's a tap ability, so you're not going to be able to do this right away most of the time. It costs 5, so it's not like, it's not free or anything. But once if you can stick this card's incredible.
Incredible. Next up, we'll move on to black cards next. The first one in black cards is Doom Whisperer, 3 black for a Nightmare Demon, which is 6/6. It's got flying and trample. I must point out that's already a better deal for a 6/6 flying trample, right?
Holy, 5 mana for a 6/6 flying trample. The last
already an excellent deal.
Yeah, in the last one there was a downside with their 5/5 6 mana, or like the 6/6.
There was a 4 mana one that meant you can't win and your opponents can't lose.
I think there was one in M19 that was like you had to sacrifice a creature when it came in.
Anyway, this one only has upside. It has an ability, pay 2 life, surveil 2. The potential, this is too breakable. They don't often give us breakable things. Paying life in our format is very easy to do because we start with double, and it doesn't tap, it doesn't cost any mana, so as long as you've got life you can do this unlimited times, and it surveil 2. And if you want to, you can put those 2 straight into your graveyard every time. So with enough life you can put all of your cards into your graveyard at instant speed, which, as far as I know, enables a whole bunch of combos.
Yeah, right. It's very, 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 very good. I always think of silly things like Yeah, for when you want to manipulate your own life total to get to a specific thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's a couple, like, you know, not that many, but like there's a couple decks that care about that. These cards are always really good. No mana, like not having to pay mana is really great. Now there are some times when you'll have this card in and you won't be able to do it because you'll be too low life or something, but that's, I don't know. That being said though, in general, this card I think is pretty good. But it's not like super amazing, right? Like it's pretty good though. Specific decks want it.
I think it's excellent.
Very specific decks want it only.
It's so cheap.
Right?
It's so huge. Yeah, I mean, if you have no use whatsoever for a Surveil 2, but like no one has truly no use for it, right?
That's true.
Like,
you know, yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Surveil 2 is still Scry 2 essentially, but better. Yeah, you're right. That's pretty
to do
good.
that unlimited.
Yeah, it's kind of pay 2 life. Like it's not draw a card, but it's like it's close.
Yeah,
it's close. Yeah. That's pretty good.
In an emergency,
plus it's a beater. Like it's a real beater.
It's a huge beater.
Some of your opponents will just really have to use real removal on this thing, and it's not even, you know, it might not even really be part of your main strategy, or like it's not a thing that's drawing you a ton of cards. Yeah, you're right. Okay, I've come around on it. That's a pretty good card then.
Yeah.
Is that it? No. This was the first one for black. Next is Mausoleum Secrets. 1 and a black for an instant with Undergrowth, and it says search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library.
Wow.
So it's a tutor, conditional in that you must have creatures in your graveyard, and it's only a black card.
I think you know the decks that want this, right? Like if you're a deck that's a combo, any sort of combo deck that has a black combo piece to it.
Yeah.
I know that there's that one. What's that one? It's an enchantment that you put counters on, quest counters, and if your opponents lose life, oh boy.
Oh man, I don't know.
Okay, you talk about this card. I'll look it up.
Okay, so my thoughts on Mausoleum Secrets are, it's at first glance you're like, oh my god, demonic tutor, but instant. That's the one good thing. Mono black loves the card. Obviously, it's just incredible. Zombie decks I think are going to love this card very much. And obviously Golgari is going to have a real good time with this. Anything that cares about the graveyard, it's going to be at least I think playable. The fact that it only gets black cards is kind of is a pretty real like cost. It's not just gonna be able to tutor for anything unless you very specifically build around it, which I don't know if it's really worth that because there are other good tutors around. But that being said, I think this card's pretty good, and like I said, I think anything that cares about graveyard, like you're probably gonna run this because even those of us who like want sort of more, like you don't want your tutors to be conditional, right? But if you want them to be more fair, then making them conditional is a way to limit their what they can get. In that case, I think like I don't know, I'd try Mausoleum Secrets out. Although I think I don't know. I think a lot of time you're either going to be like perfect, amazing, or you're going to be like very frustrated by it.
Well, and it's also you can get burned on it if you put it on the stack and then your opponent exiles your graveyard somehow.
Yeah,
then you're like, well,
that's true.
I guess I'm searching for a 0 CMC black card.
Black card, yeah. You can get a Pact of whatever the black one is.
Yeah.
It's the only card you can get. But at the very least, you can get that card. It's actually a pretty good card. So
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking also that like the main thing you'd get with this card is some type of removal probably. Or perhaps like getting like your Phyrexian Arena with this card. It seems like it's not outside of the realm of possibilities to make that pretty easy, right?
If we're going to assume most of your toolbox cards are low CMC, then Mausoleum Secrets can probably get you most of your toolbox cards, and a toolbox tutor is wonderful.
Yep. So I think in general, pretty solid. But it's I'd hesitate before I call it the new demonic tutor or anything like that.
Yes, let us hesitate.
Yeah.
This next one we want to talk about is called Plague Crafter. 2 and a black for a 3/2 human shaman. When Plague Crafter enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. This is they've really pumped up Fleshbag Marauder.
Yeah.
Or that orc one, Execution, that orc executioner,
Orcish,
brutal
no, orc.
brutal executioner.
Yeah,
Anyway,
something like that.
Anyway, so we used to pay 3 mana to get a 3/1 that makes everyone sack a creature. Now we're paying 3 mana to get a 3/2 that makes everyone sack a creature or planeswalker, and if the player's board is empty, they discard a card instead. So it's just all upside unless you care about the creature type.
Yeah, exactly. If you care about zombies, this isn't as good probably because you can there's easier ways to reanimate zombies or whatever. But other than that, Plaguecrafter is just a pretty huge upgrade. There's probably no real situation where the player would be like, okay, no problem, I'll sacrifice my planeswalker instead of my massive creature. Like that might happen, but I doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, but there are also cases where maybe like the creatures have been dealt with and there's only a planeswalker left. I don't know.
No, I think I really do think it's all upside. I think this card's really good for any deck that wants that ability. You're going to put your Plaguecrafters in probably now over. If you're only running one of them, obviously you're going to run this, I think, instead. But if you're running both, you're probably going to take that orcish one out or that whatever.
I think so.
And you're going to run this guy.
If you don't care about creature type, this is your first one.
Yeah, for sure. Next, we have Price of Fame. It's a 3 and a black for an instant that says this spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a legendary creature. And it just says destroy target creature. And it has Surveil too. So this can be a Doomblade for a legend, and it also surveil you too. If you're running a deck that wants to run a lot of removal, I think this is all right because it doesn't replace itself, but the surveil is nice, and it does hit anything for 4. I think this card's fine.
It's fine. You're going to want this if your meta is the type where there's a lot of commanders that get out of control that people always put Swiftfoot Boots or Lightning Greaves on.
Yeah.
You're going to want instant spot removal that gets in there before the boots get on. And 2 mana to get any commander that isn't a planeswalker is pretty efficient.
Yeah. Very efficient.
Moving on to another color. Yeah, it's red now. Okay, first up for red is Book Devourer, 5 and a red for a beast that is 4/5. And no, we're not talking about my teenage self on summer vacation. This is.
I thought you were going to say, no, we're not talking about a little nerd worm. Little Book Devourer, little bookworm. Anyways.
Yeah. This is a 4/5 beast with trample. Whenever Book Devourer deals combat damage to a player, you may discard all the cards in your hand. If you do, draw that many cards. That's an ability we haven't seen in a while. They don't often print these on creatures. There's another creature that has this, but it's a way tinier creature. This one has trample. I think if you love this effect, consider running this one.
Yeah, this one goes well with Niv Mizzet.
It does.
These cards aren't hard. These abilities aren't hard to come by in Commander, but when they're tacked onto a creature, it definitely is worth mentioning.
Well, but I must point out, you are the one who does this, not anyone else.
True. It doesn't do it for everyone, just for yourself. That actually can be a downside. Yeah. But whatever. It's in the decks that want it, you'll know, and you'll probably run this card now. Next, we have Erratic Cyclops, 3 and a red for a 0/8 Cyclops Shaman. What an interesting mix of of creature types. It has Trample, which for an 0/8 is interesting. But whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Erratic Cyclops gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is that spell's converted mana cost. So in certain decks, this is like Storm kind of, and can maybe win you the game. Yeah, I think it's very narrow, obviously, like only the decks that are running big instants and sorceries will care about it. But yeah, it's you might consider this card in those decks.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Next up, Experimental Frenzy. What an interesting card. 3 and a red for an enchantment. You may look at the top of your library, the top card of your library anytime. You may play the top card of your library. You can't play cards from your hand. 3 and a red, destroy Experimental Frenzy. So playing cards means playing lands or casting spells, and you're bound by all of the restrictions that come with that. So if there's a land on the top of your deck, you're allowed to play it. If the next card on the top of your deck is a land, you can't play it because you can't play 2 lands in a turn.
Yeah.
So now you just have to wait because you can't play any cards in your hand. Your only other option is to destroy Experimental Frenzy and then do stuff from your hand, or wait until next turn and see if something like that can happen. I'm very intrigued by this card. If you have something like a Temple Bell where you can tap to make yourself draw a card to like manipulate the top of your library, that becomes a lot more interesting because like red decks can have a hard time when they run out of gas, and like if you got an empty hand, this is better than an empty hand.
Yeah, that being said though, I don't think you're ever really going to play this card. Like
I don't think you're supposed to, but I want to.
Yeah, I don't think you're supposed to, and I would say please don't. The fact that you can destroy it is very interesting. It's not sacrifice, it's destroy.
Yeah, right?
So imagine like someone made this indestructible for you. So it's like, well, you're stuck with it for the rest of the game now. Like you have to use it. You can't even, you'd have to top deck a spell that eggs. That's never going to happen. Let's not even bother talking about it.
I don't know, man. It's the kind of card that piques my deck brewing brain.
Well, when a weird card like this comes up, you always think like, wow, how can we use this? Is it usable? I bet you this one is not super usable. Yeah. Maybe like green red and you can play a bunch of lands off the top too. That'd be something. I don't know. Anyways,
well, I mean, there's enough artifacts that let you move around the top of your library. Maybe I know there's a couple of blue spells that let you take all the lands out of your deck, so then you're just like spell.
Or you play it in like one of the Grenzos that like does stuff off the bottom of the library, so it's like, you know,
oh, you can do top or bottom.
So now you have the top or bottom of your library are resources. Weird. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay, let's take a look at the next card here. Legion War Boss, 2 and a red for a creature, a goblin soldier. It's a 2/2 with Mentor. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token. That token gains haste until end of turn and attacks this combat if able. Goblin cards that make goblin tokens, even if they have to attack, are usually pretty good. This is the beginning of combat trigger, so like you definitely will get that 1/1 if this guy hits. So I don't know. Goblin decks out there, do you think you want this card? Maybe.
Yeah, I don't have a Krenko deck. I don't know if Krenko wants this or not. Like, this is a tricky card for me to evaluate because like that token has to attack, so it's probably not going to get much. You're not going to get much out of that without extra attack triggers or ETB things. I don't know.
That's it's good if like obviously Perforos is running these decks, so like it's pretty decent there because it's just free goblin every time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems reasonable. Just another good goblin creature that could go in those decks.
Sure.
All right. What's next?
Ooh, risk factor. I'm very excited about this one.
I don't know why, but okay.
You don't know why?
No.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
2 and a red for an instant. Target opponent may have risk factor deal 4 damage to them. If that player doesn't, you draw 3 cards. And it has Jumpstart. So the fact that... So this used to be Browbeat. It used to be a sorcery, and it only had 1 iteration on it. Now it's an instant. So if you got nothing better to do on your turn, you can just cast this and at the end of your opponent's end step and put them in a real tough spot. You can snipe an opportunity hit if someone is like getting fairly low on life. You can just throw this out when you want. The fact that it has Jumpstart means you can, if your deck has other ways, like a lot of red decks will run ways like, oh, draw a card, discard a card. You can just happily put this in your graveyard and have this as backup card draw just in case you need, just in case it's in there. I mean, I like the idea of jumpstarting it right away and just giving someone that brutal choice twice.
You haven't sold me on this card.
Okay.
I think this card is bad and never does what you want it to do.
Well, but as we said before, right? So like if your deck, unless you have a deck where both things are what you want it to do.
Right. So like, and there are decks where it's all about a damage to the face and dealing direct damage, right?
Sure. Like Neheb wants this card, no problem.
Yeah, Neheb. Yeah. So I think they're like.
You'll always find commanders for any card.
I don't know. I don't even know if Neheb does really. Maybe because it might give you back the 4. Like it deals 4 damage, gives you back 4 mana. but then you're not drawing the cards to use the mana with. But you still might find ways to use the mana, of course. But risk factor, like that's one deck that this might be okay in. Other than that, like this card is three instant with jumpstart. I'll admit that's better than Browbeat, but it's like, would you run a card that's just deal 4 damage to a person?
I wouldn't run one that's just deal 4 damage to a person.
So the only time when deal 4 damage to a person is good is when they're at 4 life or less, and in which case you want to kill them. And in that case, it's not gonna kill them. It gives you 3 cards, which admittedly is good. Like it's not like you're like I'm losing out. Like I get to draw 3 cards now, which is sweet.
Yeah,
which is definitely the better side of it. But it's like, oh man, I wish I could just kill you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's worse to give your opponent the choice. I think they have pushed this one enough to make it playable if your deck wants this sort of thing. And then I think obviously a deck with blue won't want it because you can draw cards easily. I think we're looking at red white decks that have a hard time drawing cards. Those decks tend to be a little bit more aggressive, so I tend to put my opponents at lower life totals faster, where the choice is more difficult. And in a multiplayer game, yeah, like if you're at 4 life and I use it on you, you'll let me draw 3 cards. I would like to kill you, but this is more, I will have to kill other players after I kill you. So this will help with that mission too.
This card is dead for so long in the game though. Like this card is only good once you've dealt a bunch of damage. And if, like after a board wipe or something perhaps, but like generally though, if you've dealt that much damage, you've got more than one ways to continue dealing that damage, in which case, it's the damage part of it doesn't matter, in which case now you're there, but you're already there. You're already doing the thing you want to do. Like you have to be successful in your game plan before risk factors even.
Yeah. I mean,
anything.
I'm interested in this card. I'm not going to convince you. I accept that, but you'll see this. Yeah. You'll see this show up in my decks.
You've heard both sides. I'd be very interested to see what other decks people think risk factor can be played in, what situations maybe it's good in. I think it's easy to look at it and say this card's bad, because it is. It's more about finding the times when maybe it is good.
Right.
Like I think there are cases where maybe it is good, but outside of Neheb, which I even think it's barely good, I can't think of any, but I'm very interested to hear if there are a couple. Okay, yeah, that does it for red. Moving on to green. There's a few more in green here. First we have Beast Whisperer, 2 green for a 2/3 elf druid that says whenever you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Man, that's all right.
We love that effect.
Yeah. Green, this is the way green draws cards, and in Commander we love to draw cards. And green usually runs creatures, so you're gonna probably draw some cards off Beast Whisperer. Sounds great to me. Love it.
Great.
How happy is Amara to see this card? Another one of
pretty
these.
happy.
Yeah,
pretty happy.
It's not an ETB, it's a cast, which is important to note, right?
Yeah. How about Circuitous Root, 3 and a green for a sorcery. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and or gate cards. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. This is a strict upgrade over Explosive Vegetation, which just gets 2 basics. It's the same mana cost, same speed. Only now you're allowed to do gates. People ask us all the time, how do you do budget decks? Well, a big way to save the budget is to do budget lands. And my formula hasn't changed in like a couple years. I'm just like, how many colors is it? Cool. 3 colors, 2 gates, 2 of the +1 gain lands. 3 gates, like 1 of every I'm allowed, 1 of every +1 life gain land, 1 of every Ravnica bounce land, and the lands that cycle for 1 mana of its color. Circuitous Root now helps us get all the colors in our deck.
Yeah. I like, this is a reason to run guild gates. I don't think you were really at much of a disadvantage if you're running guild gates anyways. Unless your meta is so speed dependent and so spiky and all that. But like, I think guild gates are fine to run. And Circuitous Root just makes them even better. And I love this card, and I'm going to put it in lots of my green decks, multicolor green decks for sure. This is like one of the cards I was most excited about, actually.
Yep.
Just this like little ramp spell that now gets gates. I love it. New card we have here is District Guide. 2 and a green for a 2/2 Elf Scout. When District Guide enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card or gate card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. So if you're running any of those like Civic Wayfinder or any of those cards that get a land to your hand, or if there's anything that you care about getting lands in your hand, District Guide is, again, probably a strict upgrade in that it can get you the basic or a gate. So I think that's good. So this is a mana fixer, even more so than the original, like, again, Civic Wayfinder cards like that were, because this can get you 2 colors. So if you're running a teamer deck, this can get you blue and red, which is
great.
Sweet. And like I usually, obviously, I think we'd run cards that are like would put the land on the battlefield. That's obviously better because that's ramp as well as fixing. But this might be worth a consideration just because, it, like I said, it can fix for 2 off colors after green. So
yeah.
All right.
Then we've got Hatchery Spider. 5 green for a spider with reach. It's 5/7. It's enormous. It costs a lot of mana, but it's big. It reaches. It blocks a lot of flyers. It has Undergrowth. When you cast this spell, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. You may put a green permanent card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. The rest on the bottom in a random order. So, if you're already doing this, if a 7 mana creature isn't too expensive for you, I mean, we have to assume that once you've gotten to 7 mana, you're going to get a second permanent out of it. So the actual spider part of the cost is less than 7. But, I mean, that's a fun ability.
Yeah, it's a green permanent card, which is good. So don't worry about your ramp spells. Like, those aren't obviously going to be hit with this. It's basically like a Genesis. It's not Genesis Wave, but it's Genesis Hydra.
Drop.
There's the Hydra that does the Genesis Wave thing, but it only puts one thing out. This is the same thing with Hatchery Spider here, right? So, and obviously you want this in a graveyard deck. Otherwise, it's probably not going to hit much. But yeah, I do think though that like the decks that like a spider deck is still just going to run this card because you might get a ramp, you might get a little like artifact or something off of it, but. I don't hate this card. I think it's a pretty cool ability, and yeah, you'll see this card pop up now and again.
Yeah. And
I've made the image blue again, which I hate. I can't. It's like I click too much and it highlights it and turns it blue. Okay. All right. What's the next one we have here is Nullhide Ferox. 2 green for a beast. It's a 6/6 with hexproof. You can't cast non-creature spells. All right. And then it says pay 2. Nullhide Ferox loses all abilities until end of turn. Any player may activate this ability. And it also says if a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard Nullhide Ferox, put it into into the battlefield instead of putting it into your graveyard. So that's a pretty narrow thing that won't happen very often. There's also hexproof, and you can't cast non-creature spells. Well, they can. If they want to kill this card, they have to pay 2 and then cast the spell, but then you can cast non-creature spells to, like, I don't know, counter it or something. I don't know. I don't think this card is really playable in Commander. A 6/6 hexproof is decent, but like to just be able to get rid of it, and you're limiting yourself while this is out on the battlefield. Like, most people are probably just going to let you have this card, so now you can't do anything else besides cast creatures.
Yeah, and so maybe you build your deck around it so you don't have a lot of non-creatures. Okay, that's fine too, but still, like, this thing doesn't trample. So like, what's like, is a 6/6 hexproof for 4 that good?
Not in Commander.
No.
Not in Commander.
It's a very good rate for a 6/6, but it's just hex. It doesn't trample. Like, that's not what I want.
This thing's gonna get outclassed. Like, think about it. You can't even put an aura on this guy without paying an additional 2 to do it. And then in that case, it opens it up to removal, which is the reason you want the hexproof anyways.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not good.
Next last green card we're going to talk about is
Renewal Bourgerant.
It's called Sprouting Renewal.
That's the why don't they have the English version? That's weird.
The only image we have for you is the French version. So
it is a rituel. Convocation. Choisissez-le.
You got to choose. So it's a sorcery with Convoke. So since it's got Convoke, you could, in theory, have no lands up and you could spend all your mana on other things and still be able to cast this. It's 2 and a green. One of their creatures has to be green if you're going to do that. It's got Convoke, choose one. Create a 2/2 green and white elf knight creature token with vigilance, or destroy target artifact or enchantment. You always want some destroy artifact enchantment abilities. The fact that this is a sorcery is a drawback, but you're gaining the ability to do it without paying mana. You can fully develop your board, and if you have 3 creatures, you can also do this. And you have the option to create a token if that's what you need to do at the time.
Yeah, I think obviously getting the modal spell is nice. But I think if you're running, I don't know, it's okay. I don't.
It would need to be instant to be really.
Yeah,
good.
if it was instant, this is great, and I would really consider running it in a couple decks. But as of this, I don't think I see myself playing this card.
Yeah,
it's not terrible, but it's just like I think there's just so many better options, really.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the guilds. There's another bunch of cards to talk about here.
Yeah, so we finished the monocolor cards. If you wanted like pause and take a little bathroom break, this is a good time for it because we have about as many multicolor cards to do as we had solo color cards.
Yeah, we'll try and get through them as quickly as possible. But this is a big set. This is a big commander set. So yeah, if you want to take a brief pause, I know I'm about to take a brief pause. So let's do that, and then we'll be back with some multicolored cards. All right, you took your break. You had a little snack. Maybe you went to the washroom or something. Now we're back, and now we're hitting the guild cards.
Yeah. Okay. Great. I must make a joke though. Maybe you kept listening while going to the washroom. Like maybe you're Iron Man in this thing.
Maybe it's a marathon for you, and you're in the bathroom listening right now. In which case, hope everything goes well. All right. Of course.
Okay, so moving on, Boros. Talk about Boros first. The first card up, alphabetical order, is Chance for Glory. 1 red white for an instant. Creatures you control gain indestructible. Take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of that turn's end step, you lose the game. This is the first kind of those like take an extra turn cards that seems like it does what you want it to do. It's like, okay, I'm running a Boros deck. I'm going to do attacking a bunch. I'm going to attack. Someone does a thing that gets in the way of my attack. It's like, well, this is my only shot to win, so let's try this out. Make my team indestructible. I'll take an extra turn and hopefully get you then.
Yeah, it's interesting. Is like I was thinking, like you have another attack and all that kind of stuff. Get another whole other turn, which is great. Your stuff's indestructible. Is this kind of like a not nearly as good Teferi's protection kind of in some decks?
Yeah, it's a not nearly as good.
Because like I was just thinking, if you have the whole thing set up, I mean, you have to be red and white, obviously, but if you have the whole thing set up where it's like, okay, on my upkeep, I'm going to win the game. It's like, and then someone does something. Obviously, Teferi's protection is the one you want, but Chance for Glory, it doesn't give them a chance to untap and all that. You know what I mean? So like you might just like get the setup going, cast Chance for Glory. Now you just have the next turn, and on your like upkeep or whatever, you might be able to win the game or something.
I think it's also worth noting it doesn't say creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. They just gain it. So like they have it for your next turn before you die too.
True. Is there any way you can then stop the lose the game part from happening? No.
There's lots of ways to stop it. There's the Gideon emblem that says as long as you have a Gideon, you can't lose the game. There is
the angel, right? Platinum Angel?
Whenever you lose, you resets your life total to its starting life total.
Right.
Exile the angel, right? Like there's lots of ways to get around this.
Yeah, and a Platinum Angel is simply just you can't lose the game.
Yep, Platinum Angel.
And making her indestructible?
Forever.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Okay, Chance for Glory. I'm listening.
Okay, Chance for Glory. Yeah. Because like there are some other cards like this where you get to take an extra turn and then you lose. But the indestructible thing is very interesting. Okay, interesting. Yeah, there's maybe a bit of a niche for this card, and it's one of those ones that has a big and very splashy effect on the game.
Hefty price to pay.
Price, and you better hope. Yeah, you do it while people are tapped out, please.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so yes, moving on to the next Boros card here, we have Response and Resurgence. We didn't talk about this as a mechanic thing. I meant to. I forgot to amend that part of that section of the show. But this is a split card, and split cards are they're two little cards on one. You can cast either or. In this version, there is a version with fusion on where you can cast both. That's from the old Return to Ravnica. But this the return to Ravnica basically is these you can only cast one side of them. In this version, they all have similar sounding names, which is very confusing. Yeah, I hate it. One side will be hybrid of the guild, and the other will be the like sort of just regular gold version of the guild, where you'll need both colors. But the hybrid ones are easier to cast. What else is there to say about these? Oh yeah, when you cast them on the stack, they have the CMC of whatever, and we've seen some things care about converted mana cost, right? So when they're on the stack, they're the CMC of whatever half you cast. And then when they're in the graveyard or anywhere else, they are the combined CMC. So,
right.
Yeah, if that ever makes a difference for any deck you're running, note those rules. Otherwise...
Cascade comes up a lot, right?
Yes.
They're very hard to cascade into because this thing, it costs 2 on one side, 5 on the other. This CMC is 7. So like, that's a big spell.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. So let's read, and apologies, but we'll all have to crane our necks to read these. Response is 2 Boros hybrid. So red, white. You can cast it with just red or just white, obviously. Instant response deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. Generally, that's not great in Commander. That's like not good enough. Resurgence, on the other hand, is a sorcery that says creatures you control gain first strike and vigilance until end of turn. After this main phase, there is an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. So that ability, on the other hand, can be quite good. The ability to add a combat is a real thing. It's powerful. In addition, you're giving them first strike and vigilance too. Like, yeah, that's something. That's 2 attack phases. With all those creatures, they're going to be very hard to deal with. And then even after those both attacks, your creatures are still going to be untapped. I think you're never going to use response. Well, once in a blue moon, you might use response. But really... That's
only upside, though, right?
Exactly.
The fact that it's there is only a good thing.
Absolutely, it is. Being modal like this, like I think in the decks that care about doing this, Resurgence is a card you would just run anyways. And you're right. The fact that it has this other little spell tacked onto it is pure gravy. Just pure beef gravy. But it's, don't ever see it as a downside at all because it's really good.
Something funny about those words.
Pure beef gravy.
It's the way you say it, too. You don't need to say it that crazy.
It's a deep, dark brown gravy. It really is. It's good. It's amazing. You put it on fries because you're in Canada. Put it on.
Oh, I love it on fries.
I don't know, roast beef in the States. What do they even use gravy for down there?
Roast beef au jus.
Their gravy in the States is like white and it goes on chicken. Get out of here. I don't even know what you're talking about. It goes on waffles. What? Anyways, you guys are nuts. We'll have a CB vlog all about gravy coming up after this.
Yeah, and how it relates to Commander.
All right. So, Response and Resurgence, I think good in those Boros decks. So it's a pretty good Boros card.
Great. So that's it for Boros. There's not a lot of it's an attacky guild, so it's not a lot of the cards are great for Commander. So that's it. All we've got there. But we're gonna move on to Selesnya. We're gonna take the white forward and do the green and white guild. First up is Join Shields. 3 green white for an instant. Untap all creatures you control. They gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. I put this on the list not because I'm gonna run it, but just to illustrate how important like heroic intervention is. And there's a lot of 3 mana cards that will save your team in white, and the green got one at 2 mana, hexproof and indestructible. So the only thing Join Shields gives you above heroic intervention is untapping creatures you control, and it costs us 3 more mana. One of it has to be white
and another color. And
another color, which normally should make things cheaper,
Yeah.
right? You add a color, they should be better. So the fact that we get about as much or for way more mana is ridiculous to me. This should cost green-white.
Yeah, and if we wanted to make it one green-white because of the untap, let's say,
I'll give you that.
Exactly, I'd buy that. I think that's fine. Now this is at uncommon as opposed to the rare that heroic intervention is.
Okay, fine.
So like I guess there's some consideration there, but like this is not a replacement for heroic intervention. Heroic intervention is a very good card, and heroic join shields is less good. This is a 5 mana instant. Like, you know, this is not
you can't hold up 5 to save your team.
Yeah, exactly. No, you can't afford to do that. So
and
it's,
like
surprisingly,
I guess,
like the ability is amazing. Untap and give everyone hexproof and indestructible, but the cost is too much, I think.
So let's let the takeaway be heroic intervention will never go down in price. They will never come close to reprinting it. So
they should reprint it all the time. They should just be reprinting this constantly.
They really should. So like if you don't have one yet, oh man, get one soon.
How much is this card now?
I don't know, $20, $10. I think it's over 10.
Really? This says it's $4.87.
Oh really? Grab them.
That can't be right. It was way more than that, wasn't it?
I don't know. Maybe people have come around.
Anyways, let's move on. Next we have Knight of Autumn. 1 green white for a 2/1 Dryad Knight. When it enters the battlefield, you get to choose one, and there's 3 options. Put 2 1/1 counters on Knight of Autumn, so it would become a 4/3 for 3 mana. Destroy target artifact or enchantment, or you gain 4 life. So some decks will care about. I think really the only real consideration here is the destroy target artifact or enchantment in like blink decks or anything. So like Reclamation Sage can be really good in those decks. Knight of Autumn is like another consideration that will sometimes gain you 4 life. I don't think you'll really ever put the counters on it. Really rare situations you'll care about a 4/3. This is a pretty borderline card here. I think only because it's modal is it even worth kind of mentioning.
Yeah, it's the same as Rex Sage with upside, right?
Yeah.
It's harder to cast, but if you run Rex Sage in a green and white deck,
Yes.
upgrade it to Knight of Autumn.
Yeah, that's true. Yep, good call. What's next?
Ooh, next we have March of the Multitudes. X green white white. Super cool art also. It's an instant. It's got Convoke. So if we have a big board, we can tap a lot of our creatures to make X even bigger. Create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink. We don't get a lot of instant speed token generations that have an X in their mana cost. I think we have the one that makes the cats, White Sun Zenith, and I think we have the one that makes the warriors from like Khans of Tarkir, that one.
Mm-hmm.
So this one,
and okay.
This one makes soldiers with lifelink, and it allows us to convoke with it. So if we have a big board of creatures, now this is sort of the definition of win more, because like if we have a lot of creatures, we can make it even bigger. But this is also a way to go from having no creatures to having a good amount of creatures at instant speed.
Well, the thing, like win more as a concept in Magic is real, but in Commander it's a little different. In Commander, you have 3 to 4 opponents, so win more is not necessarily win more in like 1v1 sometimes means like, okay, I can deal, like I have enough creatures out here to deal, 18 damage. Well, now I have enough creatures, or like 20 damage, but now I have enough creatures to deal 40 damage. Like, well, that doesn't matter. 20 damage is all you need to ever do. But like in Commander, it's way different. So win more has different, like I think there's a higher or lower bar to hit, either, you know what I mean? But like it's different. Win more just means win faster, which is actually really good better in Commander than it is in 1v1. So that being said, though, March of the Multitudes and cards like this, like the instant ones that you can put creatures out, are so good, and the Convoke is real on this one. This is what I was thinking about when I was thinking like, will we get a relevant Convoke card? I really do think this is good in these like go wide small token decks, because you'll tap them all, but then you'll just get new 1/1s to be up for them, right? So like if there's something where you need to do this in response to something, or you need to do this to put blockers out or something like that, the Convoke is like not even really that bad because you're just going to get those creatures back because everyone that convokes essentially is going to give you another creature to replace it. So I like this card a bunch in those decks for sure.
I love the card a bunch too. Yeah, I think maybe my Winmore was not completely accurate. I guess I was just thinking if you already have 50 creatures out, you don't need another 50.
Certainly, that's true. But that's a pretty sweet board, and you don't really need much else after that, probably.
Yeah, I think this card is excellent.
Yeah, it's great. It even the great thing about it is like sometimes these like really great token makers need something to make tokens first, you know, like whereas this doesn't. This just makes them itself, and it's great. So even if you don't have creatures to convoke it, it's still pretty good.
Very fun if you have that angel enchantment out there too.
Oh yeah, real good. Real good. Okay, that does it for Selesnya. So Selesnya, I wasn't as excited about it because, like I said, my Tristani deck wants bigger tokens, so we didn't really get many of those. But I still think there's some decent stuff here for Selesnya, although not amazing. Let's move on to Golgari, the green-black guild. First card, maybe one of them, like I think the card that in general the Magic community is maybe the most excited about. Assassins, I think so. Yeah, Assassin's Trophy. Black, green for an instant. Destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle their library. So it's kind of like a mix between like Abrupt Decay and like Path to Exile, kind of, you know, like it deals with any permanent, which is better than Abrupt Decay, but for this very low price of just one black and one green. And then I guess like the downside, like the thing that you're kind of like giving your opponent is that they get a land, which is a pretty small price considering that at instant speed this takes care of any permanent. Doesn't exile, but still very, very solid. I think this is obviously like designed for the more eternal formats, and like this is going to be great in all the competitive stuff. Commander, this is still obviously, I think this is still awesome in Commander, but you know the efficiency isn't. We're not so concerned about it. So like this card's going to be expensive. It's already selling for like $25 or something.
I think this is the kind of card that if you open it in a draft, flip it to your card store, take that $20 bill and just buy more packs, buy more singles, buy a few heroic interventions or whatever. I think Putrefy is so close to this.
Yeah, it's true.
And it does almost everything that this does, and the things that it misses are just like, well, I don't care about those always. Yeah. Like I got lots of ways to do it. I mean, giving your opponent a land is not in. I think we can do this effect for 3 mana a lot of ways, and I'm bothered by the fact that it doesn't exile. Like if I'm getting flexibility, sure, that's what I'm getting, but I want exile. Like the exile is always better than destroy. Like this thing actually doesn't hit a lot of things because they are indestructible.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think the hype is definitely more suited for the other formats that will want this. Legacy, Vintage, Modern, perhaps. Commander, this card is still very good in Commander, but I think you're right. It's Putrefy is so close to it, right? Mortify is so close to it. There's a bunch of stuff that is close enough that sell this card when you get it.
I think so.
Only thing is like, will it go up from this price? Is it going to be that good in Eternal formats where you're going to see this card even go up from $25 right now?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Ask our friend Jason Alt. He'll tell you about that. Ask the gang over at Brainstorm Brewery. Okay. Next card.
Oh, next card is Golgari Findbroker. Black, green, 3/4 elf shaman. When Golgari Findbroker enters the battlefield, return target permanent from your graveyard to your hand. Always a useful effect. I mean, if you're in Golgari and, you know, if you've got ways to get things back from your graveyard, you can get a couple things back. I don't know, just something to consider.
Gets artifacts and enchantments, which is nice, and also lands. This might actually be good in those land matters decks, like the Jund land deck. This might actually be something to think about. Next we have Okran Assassin. Okran Assassin. 1 black green for an elf assassin creature. It's a 1/1 with Death Touch, and it says all creatures able to block Okran Assassin do so. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to find a way to pump this creature for it to be able to kill multiple things. Otherwise, it is just going to kill the one thing because that's one power. But certain decks will want this. It's interesting. It's Golgari, so like it's not the most attacky type of deck and like the Voltron style of deck, but there may be some commanders out there that can make good use of this.
It's like another lure effect. If you want lure effects, if the rest of your deck will get through unblocked, as long as they don't deal with this. So that's just something to consider.
Yeah, I always forget about that, but that is probably the best part of a lure effect is that everything else will just get through.
Yeah. Cool. Next up, we got Underrealm Lich, 3 black-green for a zombie elf shaman. In all accounts, this looks like this should be a legendary. Anyway, it's 4/3. If you would draw a card, instead look at the top 3 cards of your library, then put 1 into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Pay 4 life. Underrealm Lich gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap it, which is sort of a they're tricking you into regenerating it. They're not using the word regenerate anymore, but that's what happens when you regenerate creatures. They become tapped. So it's
that's true.
So that's a convenient way to like.
Yeah, it is different. It will still deal damage and I guess it would still do that. It doesn't removed from combat technically.
Right.
That's a pretty small thing. Anyways, this card's cool.
So it's cool. If you would draw a card, you look at the top 3 and 2 go in your graveyard. If you love stuff going in the graveyard, that's amazing. I didn't do the math though, but like. You can't play cards that say like draw 10 cards with this, because then you're putting 30 cards, you're going through 30 cards, and like you don't get to do that forever before you run out of cards. You might need a way to recycle these, but you're going to get amazing selection. And if your graveyard is also your hand, then you're just putting 2 cards, you're drawing 3 cards a turn basically.
Yeah, I think this card's just very good.
I think it's very good.
That selection ability is really strong, and then you can just have protection right on it. Very, very good. And then I think the thing you talked about, like going through 30 cards, I think that's like pretty corner case. You're not really going to do that very often. Even then in Commander, that's the place you can do it. But I think this card is just pretty strong. I think hopefully it won't be too expensive. What's it selling for right now? It's like $4. That's not bad. It's a mythic, so.
I think it's important to note that this is a replacement effect for drawing cards. You are not drawing cards with this on the battlefield. So cards that care about drawing cards never see you draw cards.
True. Nekusar. This protects against Nekusar. Great. One last one here. We have the split card, Status and Statue. Status is the 1 Golgari hybrid, so green or black. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains Death Touch until end of turn, which I think is a really good card. I think actually that's really neat. It's not amazingly powerful or anything, but that can be relevant. And then the statue is 2 black-green, instant, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. It kind of mixes Mortify, Putrefy, cards we were just talking about, all into one, plus giving you that little extra, possibility with status. Like, yeah, this card's fine.
Card's fine. I mean, and I can't help but think of Assassin's Trophy, and I'm just like, yeah, Assassin's Trophy is more efficient, but I'll take Statue for, what is it, a gumball, 15 cents over Assassin's Trophy any day.
Yeah, probably. Yep. It hits creatures, artifacts, and enchantments. I mean, you run cards that do that anyways. Why not run this if you're in these colors? Yeah. I think it makes sense. Okay. Plus,
great.
The ability to give instant speed Death Touch to something can be very, very relevant, not only because of your own creatures, but you can do that on another creature. Your opponents are getting into combat, and you can take care of one of theirs with this little ability. Like, I think don't underrate that ability. That's something.
Yeah.
I mean, because it only costs 1 too, right? So, like, anyways.
It sort of becomes a removal spell if there's a combat going on.
Yeah.
In corner cases.
Yeah.
We're changing guilds. We're moving to the Dimir guild. This is blue and black. These decks tend to be graveyardy kind of things. This first card is Mnemonic Betrayal. 1 blue black for a sorcery. Exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards. Before I continue reading, I'll just say that's an effect we want sometimes. Sometimes we want to do that. You may cast those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remain exiled, return them to their owner's graveyards. No longer a useful thing in that sense. And you must exile Mnemonic Betrayal. I put this in here because it's very interesting. I want to know if you think this is good. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the sky, like the ceiling is, I was about to say the sky's the limit. The ceiling is very high on this card, obviously, right? Like you can cast all kinds of stuff as long as it's in their graveyards, which I think is, yeah, that's relevant. Especially if you're in that, like if you're in any of the dedicated like mill decks, like if you're in if you've got Phoenix or, you know, a Lazov deck, this is going to be really cool. I think it's interesting that it says mana of any type. That's probably just the new templating for it, but it doesn't say color. So you can actually cast like colorless matters cards, like with the colorless mana symbol.
Yeah.
I know usually that says color, so I don't know. Again, probably just the new templating, but that's neat. You need a ton of mana to make this work, obviously.
Yeah, 3 to start it.
If you want to cast a couple different things, but like, I think this card's awesome. I really do. I think you're gonna like you get this, and then you've got a bunch of mana. You can cast a couple little, maybe you can cast some like rampy things or cantrippy things or something, and then or card draw, or then get a big creature out of it. Like if you can do this, it's a nice late game play, and you can probably get some pretty sweet stuff off of it.
Yeah, I think the best way to look at this is don't worry that you're exiling graveyards and then that you're putting those cards back into their graveyards. You can just pretend that part isn't in it. I think the right mindset is just like, hey, for 3 mana, cast whatever you want out of your opponent's graveyards this turn.
That is
and
exactly
it's like,
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like if you kind of like, I was confused by exiling all the cards and then putting them all back in. That felt good and then bad to me. But I guess once you take that out of the equation, which is neutral, then it's fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, why are you even saying that?
I don't know. It just had my brain. It just I don't know. I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't even really affect anything. It's kind of interesting that they even have to put that on the card. It's very weird.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm sure there's a reason, some rules reason for it. But I love it. I think it's going to be great. I think you're going to throw this in those mill decks and just have a really big, crazy effect. It's going to be able to pull like weird combos, like from, you know, different colors and different decks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
Cool. What's our next Dimir card?
Next Dimir card is Nightveil Predator. It's 2 blue and 2 black for total for a 3/3 flying death touch vampire, and it has hexproof. So if you've ever run, what's the one? Nightveil Spectre? No, that's a different card. What's the vampire? The 2/3 from Zendikar with death touch and lifelink. This is just similar. Obviously, you can only put this in Dimir, but the flying death touch hexproof does hold back a lot, surprisingly, and the fact that the hexproof is there makes it even a better defender. So I think it's just a strong defender in Dimir, and yeah, neat little card. You're not going to put it in everything, but you know, I think it's going to do some work actually.
Yeah. Next up is Thief of Sanity, 1 blue black for a Spectre. It's 2/2. It has flying. Whenever Thief of Sanity deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library, exile one of them face down, and put the rest into their graveyard. As long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it, you may cast it, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast that spell. This is what Gonti does on his ETB, but you get it every time you do combat damage. I'm for sure going to want to give this creature double strike and get 2 things that way. I think this is just... like, Gonti is a very powerful ability. In Commander, we play very strong cards, so getting to pick the best 3 off the top of someone's deck and just have it whenever you need it is a very powerful effect.
Yeah, I think this card's really cool, and there's going to be lots of ways to abuse it. And my kitty needs to stop jumping in front of me. Okay, Thief of Sanity, love it. I think it's really good. Next, we have another split card. It's Connive and Concoct. The Connive half is 2 and 2 Dimir hybrid, and it says gain control of target creature with power 2 or less. Interesting and important to note that this effect does not end. This is simply gain control of that creature. So maybe you can if you can gain control of like a commander that has power 2 or less, that's going to be actually really good. Or some other like utility creatures, but otherwise it doesn't actually hit that much. Next is Concoct, and which is a sorcery that says surveil 3, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's a reanimate spell in Dimir, which is like obviously very easy to come by, but the fact that these two are smashed together is pretty good. Like I think if you're in a Dimir deck and you're running like Rise from the Grave, just replace this with it, right? This is just better.
Yes, this is better than a one-time only 5 mana reanimate.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I think that's instant, isn't it? I think maybe it is. Maybe I'm thinking something else. But yeah, I don't know. I think the decks that want this will know. I think Connive can be sneakily good, while also sometimes just not being able to do anything relevant at all. Yeah, I think this card's okay. And again, like I said, like this is a you'll know when you want it. If you're reanimating stuff, I think it's worth a look.
Yeah, it would be tough. It would be tough for this to bump out another reanimator spell. You'd have to look at your meta and see if Connive has any real targets.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. If all the commanders in your meta are all, a lot of commanders are 2 power, like a lot of good ones too. So it is worth a look for sure. But otherwise, yep just decent. What's next?
Next up is Discovery Dispersal, another split. So the first half, the cheap half, there's 1 and a Dimir hybrid. It is a sorcery. Surveil 2, then draw a card. I mean, these are small effects. They're going to be small. That's not bad. But it's not great. The other one is Dispersal. 3 blue, black for an instant. Each opponent returns a non-land permanent they control with the highest converted mana cost among permanents they control to its owner's hand, then discards a card. So if their hand is empty, they're going to have to pitch the one that they returned. Because very rarely will a token have a higher CMC than a real card. This could only happen if you've like copied things into token form. That's the only way that would happen. But yeah, each opponent returns the biggest thing they control. That can be pretty disruptive at instant speed.
Yeah, at instant speed. That's true. The discard a card is real too, right? Like, yeah, that's something. I don't know. This one I don't love as much. I think it's okay. But the floor of this card is Discovery, which is cycle, surveil 2 and cycle essentially.
Yeah. It really makes you realize how unfair Cyclonic Rift is.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah.
For 5 mana, this puts back 1 thing each.
Yeah.
But like Cyclonic Rift can do that whole.
And you
thing
don't even you can't even decide what it is too. Yeah. But the reality is a lot of times that's just not going to hit the thing you want to bounce. Even if they do immediately, you have to discard it for if they have nothing else in their hand.
Yeah.
Okay. That's it for Dimir. Let's move on to our final guild. It's Izzet, and the first card here is Firemind's Research. Blue and red for an enchantment that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Firemind's Research. And then it has 2 activated abilities. First is 1 in a blue and remove 2 charge counters from Firemind's Research. Draw a card. And 1 in a red, remove 5 charge counters from Firemind's Research. It deals 5 damage to any target. I think this card is it's a weird way to capitalize on like storm type decks, right? Storm is going to be the way you would win any of those, or like I always bring up Epic Experiment because that's the one that I have that kind of cares about storm stuff. I don't, but this doesn't win you. Like if you're storming off, I think you're past the point where you need this card.
How are you ever going to put 5 charge counters on this like more than once? Like you have to put 10 or 15 or 20. Like that's not going to happen.
Yeah, you need it's weird. Like I almost want this to be green so that when I'm playing my ramp spells at the beginning of the game, I'll get counters for that, and then I can, with all that land, I can use these abilities. But at first glance, I was actually like, oh, this card seems pretty good. And now I'm like, oh, I don't know. Because it's in blue, so like there's better ways to draw cards.
Yeah, I don't know. It's tricky. I don't think it's good.
No, I don't think it's that good either. Some decks might be stoked about it, but I don't know what those decks are really.
Yeah.
All right, next one.
Next one. This one is very exciting.
Oh,
Is
this
it a
one's
win more
crazy.
card though? 1,000-Year Storm, 4 blue red enchantment. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it for each other instant and sorcery spell you've cast this turn before it this turn. You may choose new targets for the copies. So puts, I mean, not literal storm on your instants and sorceries, because storm counts all the cards all the spells you've cast. This only counts instants and sorceries you've cast. But most of the way storm decks go off is by like free instants or sorceries anyway. So effectively, this gives all your instants and sorceries storm, which is like, that's nuts. So, but but again, as you said, is this just win more? Like, I mean, if your goal is not to cast a ton of spells at once, this doesn't do anything. You have to cast 2 spells in a turn for this to do literally anything.
And it costs 6.
It costs 6. And if you're storming out, I mean, maybe this makes your storm easier because all your little cantrippy, almost free cards start to draw you more. Yeah. Next one draws you 2, next one draws you. So, like, I mean, this makes your odds of making it happen way higher. Yeah. So, like, I mean, I think am I going to run it? Yes.
Yes.
Is it good? I don't know.
It's a very big effect. This is a commander card. I don't like no other format that plays Storm will want this card. It's too much. It's too much. 6 mana. It's too much. And like you said, it is win more for those formats. For our format, it's interesting. So Storm might actually like you're saying might not care as much about it just because like they already do that. Like you don't need this 6 mana enchantment to come and enable that. But I think red blue decks will care about it because of, like you said, the like those cantrip type spells, anything related to card draw, like those are, it's really good for those. Like you brainstorm and then you might do like a little preordain, or then you might do something else, you know, like maybe a bigger draw spell after that or something like that. Or now you're talking about burn spells, right? We're talking about you mentioned here in the notes, like is like at the end of a big thing where you cast a bunch of little spells, you lightning bolt.
Yeah,
all of a sudden you cast times. Like right, like that's very good now.
That's very good.
So yeah, I mean, I think if you build around this as like kind of you build around this. I want to. We're gonna see a lot of similar stuff, but like I think this card is very cool, and I'm very excited about it. And will I put this in Epic Experiment? Probably. Does it need it? No, I don't think so.
Oh my god, can you imagine copying an Epic Experiment 3 times, 4 times?
Well, because even the turn where you go like brainstorm, and then you play like it's late in the game. Obviously, we have our 1,000-Year Storm out. We have, let's say, whatever it is, like whatever the mana we need to go brainstorm, and then like blatant thievery. Like now you take 2 from everyone. Like that's wild. Or like expropriates what, like 9 or something, 7 or 9. It's crazy expensive. But if you can get that 1 mana small sorcery off, like in Epic Experiment, where like you go get a land to your hand and then do it, like, whoa, that's wild.
Well, can I throw another idea your way?
Sure.
How about this? How about a little brainstorm, a little cantrip, a little thing, and then I do frantic search. So I draw 2, discard 2, untap 3 lands times 5.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like that's not win more anymore. That's win. Like that's what's going to enable us to win, right? Those types of interactions.
It's going to dig us to the actual storm cards that are the wins.
Yes,
it's going to enable our win faster. I mean, this card is exciting. I really want to play with this.
Yeah, I think this card is awesome, and I think that it's going to be fun, big, crazy, silly fun. Is exactly what we like to do in Commander. So, yeah, man, I love it. I'm very stoked.
Cool. We have a couple more Is It spells.
So next we have Expansion and Explosion. This is the Is It split card, or one of the Is It split cards. Expansion is 2 Is It hybrid for an instant that says copy target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets for the copy. So conditional, a way to copy instants and sorceries, although it can be anyone's, not just yours. And Explosion, I think this is the side you're actually kind of excited about, is X blue red is an instant. Explosion deals X damage to any target, and target player draws X cards. So there's a card called Firemind's. No, there's an X spell that's like basically similar to this. It's like blue red red or blue blue red, where it's like you either deal damage or you draw that many cards.
Right.
And the explosion is
Invoke
both.
the Firemind.
Invoke the Firemind. That's right. Thank you.
And that's a sorcery.
That is a sorcery. This is an instant, and you do both for 1 more mana, I think, right? Invoke the Firemind is 3 in X, right?
Right. I mean, and let's compare this to Blue Sun Zenith, which is 3 in X. Mm-hmm. Or that other one that's like 2X blue, like X2 blue. Like 3 mana X is enough to draw at instant speed, and for 1 more mana they've given us do damage to any target. That's amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So index where you do a lot of direct damage, like Niv Mizzet, where you might run stuff like what's Neheb, things like that. Like this card is wild. This card's wild with Niv Mizzet because not only are you going to deal like it costs like 10 mana to do it, but you deal 6 damage to something, you draw 6 cards, but then because you drew 6 cards, you deal 6 more damage. Like that's very, very good. It is a lot. It's a high mana cost, and on average, you're probably only going to get like you might like if you cast this for 7, you deal 3 damage and you draw 3 cards, which is still very good.
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing lives for being at the end of people's turns. The fact that it's instant is the only reason we're talking about this.
Yeah, agreed. So not like it's a very real cost, but it has again a pretty high ceiling, and I think is
and like
decent.
Expansion is not nothing, right? You can copy any instant or sorcery with CMC 4 or less. You don't have to cast it. A lot of these spells say spells you control, but like if an opponent's aiming a removal spell, is like, okay, sure. Or if they do their own explosion, target player draws X cards, it's like, I think I will also draw X cards and deal X.
Well, you can't because it needs to be converted mana cost 4 or less.
Oh, right, because that one will be huge. Yeah. Okay. I mean, still.
Yeah, like I don't like expansion because of that. It really limits it. I think you'll always just be waiting to do explosion.
I think you will, but again, like we said before, the fact that it's there means there will be a world where something comes up where you'll be glad you had that option.
You might be able to run this as like a counter spell, you know? Uh-huh. That's something that happens, but like you're never going to get the big flashy spells with expansion ever.
Right.
Unfortunately. Okay. That's one more here for you.
Oh, invert and invent. Invert is the one that is already errated that they forgot to do. Switch power and toughness of each of up to 2 target creatures until end of turn is what they forgot to write. And then invent for red blue. Search your library for an instant card and or a sorcery card, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your library. So this is an instant speed tutor for an instant and a sorcery.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is very good. So I was reading this card and I was like, invert, who cares?
Who literally cares?
Who cares? But invent, 6 mana is a lot, but it's instant and it gets you 2 cards. That's great. This can get you like this. Yeah, this is great.
A combo. It can get you a combo.
Can get you a combo. Can get you just like I don't know. This does all kinds of stuff. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, 6 mana again is a lot. That's a real cost for sure again, but I think for the fun for the lower, not lower powered, even just like not super spiky metas, you're gonna love to run invent. It's gonna be great,
big time.
And even then, like a tutor is like, is that spiky? Maybe it is, but maybe not a 6 mana tutor, even if it does get you 2 things. Okay, great. So that does it for the guilds. There's one more like section of cards that we haven't talked about yet that relates to the guilds, but our artifacts, and that's the lockets. So each guild has a locket, and the lockets all look the same. They're all 3 generic for artifacts that will tap and add red or white, and then they all have the ability of hybrid of whatever guild they are. So like the Boros one is all hybrid Boros, so red white. Any combination of red or white 4 times. So someone just subscribed to our Twitch channel, I guess. Any combination of 4 red or white, and tap this and sacrifice Boros Locket, you'll draw 2 cards. So it's like a what's it called? There's been many iterations of
Clue
these, right?
stones.
Clue stones, the key runes.
Yeah.
But these all have the draw 2 cards off of these. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing is the fact that it's like, I really want to highlight the Boros one mainly, because like Boros needs mana rocks because they have a hard time ramping, and they have a hard time drawing, and this does both. So I think the Boros Locket in specific is going to be a very useful tool for those decks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think in any deck where I have run Clue Stones before, because the Clue Stone, like, let's just bring up a Clue Stone here so we know what we're talking about. So the Boros Clue Stone, again, is basically the exact same, except that you pay red, white, tap it, sacrifice, and draw 1 card. So they just kind of doubled that up, but made it a little easier with the hybrid mana. I think I'm more likely to run the Lockets over the Clue Stones at this point.
I think so too.
I'd rather draw, because when you're at that point in the game, having it replace itself is very good, but having it draw you an extra card is even better, even if you do pay the 4 mana for it. So
yeah,
I like these Lockets. So I think any deck where I'm running a Clue Stone, which aren't very many given, it's only a handful of decks I think where I run those, and it's usually colors like this that don't ramp very well. But I think I'll be replacing them with Lockets.
Yeah, I'm glad they're here.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk about a couple of lands. There's a few that seem like they could be Commander relevant. Let's talk about our first one here.
Well, this is Gateway Plaza. This is controversial. Now we have a third one of these, right?
Yeah.
So there's Transguild Promenade, there's Rupture Spire, now there's Gateway Plaza. Enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you have to pay 1 or you sacrifice it, but it adds 1 of any color. So
this is also a gate. That is the difference. That's why it's not just Transguild Promenade, right?
I didn't notice that.
Like everything else is the same, except that this is also a gate.
Well, that's a game changer. Now I don't know.
So now you can go get this with what's it called, circuitous route, or your district guide. There are some cards from Return to Ravnica that go get gates. So this becomes a bit more relevant. I still think if you're running like the 5-color gate deck, yeah, no problem. Get Gateway Plaza.
Oh, it's another gate.
Exactly.
Ooh, 11th gate.
11th gate. We have our 11th gate. I think, but I still think these cards are bad in anything less than 5 colors, and like I don't even really want to run them in 4-color decks, but. Yeah, you've probably heard us talk about this a lot.
Yes.
I'm slowly bringing Sean around to the fact that they're bad in 3-color decks, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they are the fact that it's a gate. Ugh, it's still bad in low colors.
Yeah, it's still like it's awful in 2 colors. I don't think it's very good in 3. I try to avoid running them in 4, and then 5 is like where you might have an exception there.
Yeah.
Okay. And all the reasons for that we've stated a lot, but it costs a mana to play it, which essentially sets you back a turn if you're looking to hit that curve, if you're looking to hit that land that turns, it can be quite bad.
There's one more. To who's you reading? Oh, this is your turn.
This is me. Yeah. Guildmage's Forum is a land that taps to add colorless mana, but then you can also pay 1 and tap it to add 1 mana of any color. If that mana is spent on a multicolored creature spell, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So this can be relevant for a lot of commanders, actually, that want that extra power toughness. It's kind of like another Opal Palace, except obviously not as good, because Opal Palace ramps with the number of times you've cast your commander. But Guildmage's Forum will go in the decks I think that care about that. Like Marchesa loves to enter with a the original Marchesa loves to enter with a +1/+1 counter on it. And there's some other there's some other creatures that might care about it. So toss it in those decks. Otherwise, it's not amazing.
And the only other lands to speak of are the reprints of the Shock lands.
With new art, which is cool.
New art, that's cool too. The Shock lands are lands that come into battlefield tapped unless you pay 2 life. That's why they're called Shock, because Shock does 2 damage to things. It's like you've been shocked. They carry both of their land types. So Temple Garden, for example, is a forest and a plains. So if you have cards that let you search for forests or plains, they let you find them, but this do not count as a basic for those purposes. And these are great cards in Commander because you don't have to put them to play untapped unless you need the mana right now at the cost of 2 life. And they're going to drop in price a lot because of the reprint, so grab them now for a few decks.
Load up on these. These are classic cards that go up in price. Not as much as the fetch lands, but they're great in combination with those fetch lands, as Sean mentioned, because of their dual land type. So
yeah.
But yeah, grab these, man. Grab these. They're great. I still have all the ones I drafted and bought from Return to Ravnica, and I think everyone should do that too. They're very good. Draft these first because they're going to be worth like $10 eventually.
Yeah, they're worth more than your pack.
Yeah.
So we have a few planeswalkers to talk about. 2 that you can open in packs. These are the missing Izzet and Golgari legendaries that we didn't get earlier.
Right.
But these cannot be commanders. And we'll talk about their versions that are only in planeswalker decks. We're going to try to keep this from a commander point of view. You do want to take the first one here?
Sure. We have Ral Izzet Viceroy. 3 blue, red for legendary planeswalker Ral. 5 loyalty. +1, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand and the other into your graveyard. -3, Ral as a Viceroy deals damage to target creature equal to the number of instant or sorcery cards in your you own in exile and in your graveyard. That's interesting. And then the ultimate is -8. You get an emblem with whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, this emblem deals 4 damage to any target and you draw 2 cards. So we always say, obviously the ultimate's going to be the most enticing part of it, looks the best, but very difficult to get these off. So let's obviously that's going to be very good, but how are the first 2 effects here? And I don't think they're all that good. It doesn't protect itself, which you always like to see even in Commander. It's even more important in Commander because we have more enemies or more opponents. And
specifically, the plus is the one that we want to protect.
Yeah, and you're going to be plussing. You're going to be putting something in your graveyard, so maybe you can remove something eventually with that -3. But ultimately, I don't think this card is all that good.
I've heard people talk about it, how they're kind of reworking the design of planeswalkers so that they're more of a game plan planeswalker as opposed to just straight value.
Right.
So, and I think that's what we can see with Ral, right? Like, look at 2 cards, one in your hand, one in your graveyard. Okay, the -3, the fact that they can be in exile and your graveyard means as you're putting spells in your graveyard, your opponents can't stop you. Like, if they exile your graveyard, your Ral is still able to do big damage to creatures. Right. Unfortunately, it's only creatures and not players, which is aggravating. And then -8 clearly points to that kind of deck where you've been casting a ton of instants or sorceries, so you're just going to keep that rolling with the emblem. So I think Ral is not the way to make that plan work. I think Ral is in there to be like an assist on that plan. It's like, yeah, maybe you're not going to make it work, but I think if it fits your plan, sure, throw them in, but I wouldn't build around him.
Yeah. And obviously Jumpstart, the exile gets all your flashback and Jumpstart stuff that you've already done, which is nice.
Yeah, that's neat.
All right, let's take a look at the next one. The missing Golgari legendary.
Yeah, so again, this one's from packs, and so I'm going to take this as if it's from like a game plan perspective. So it's Vraska Golgari Queen, 2 black-green for a 4 loyalty planeswalker, +2. You may sacrifice another permanent. If you do, gain a life and draw a card. Well, that plus ability definitely is the opposite of protecting itself because you're taking resources away, but you're getting 1 life, but your life does not help protect Vraska. -3. Destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. It only destroys small things, but it destroys things. That's something. And then -9, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on your 4th turn, so 3 ups and then a -9, lets you say, you get an emblem with, whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. Well then.
Yeah.
That's an ultimate.
That is an ultimate, and it's important to note the ultimate, the planeswalkers with green in them, because those are definitely. I mean, you can run obviously Ral in like a teamer deck and get doubling season with it, but Vraska does not get that ultimate even automatically with doubling season. So
I'm sure they thought of that.
Yes, for sure they did, because that is a powerful ultimate. It's an emblem
Yeah.
that doesn't go away. Every creature for the rest of the game now, like, will make someone lose a game if it hits. Like, it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Vraska Golgari Queen's big game plan here. Like, I don't see like a full game plan. Like, sacking a permanent to gain a life and drawing a card is like, yeah, I mean, if I'm a wicked token deck, I got so many tokens, sure, that's bonus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Destroying things, I don't predict I'm ever really gonna do that. Maybe if there's an aggravating enchantment like a Rhystic Study or something.
My thing is like, why did I like again? So this is definitely pushed for other forms for standard or for modern, whatever it is, right? Standard for sure. It's pushed. So 4 mana, 4 loyalty to be able to +2 it right away. That's kind of the protection right there. That's a 6 loyalty planeswalker. Like, you're gonna need to attack with quite a bit of power toughness to kill this thing. So, but in Commander, it's like, but why did you have to make it 3 or less? Like, why can't it just destroy non-permanent? Like, doesn't the other Vraska just do that? Like, I think she costs like 5 or something, but 3 or less.
6 mana Vraska from Ixalan?
No, the RTR one, the original Vraska.
Oh, I don't remember her.
She destroys a permanent, but she might cost 5, I think. Anyways, like for Commander, she's a sack outlet, I guess. She's a sorcery speed 1 time a turn sack outlet to gain life and draw a card, which is like, okay, but there's better ones than that even. And the minus might not even be relevant very much at the time. And you're not going to get to that -9.
Yeah.
So I don't like this card for Commander at all.
No, me neither.
Bummer.
Okay, so
but
let's
that's
talk
usually
about
how it works, right? Usually the pack ones are not great in Commander because they put the ones in the Planeswalker decks, which might be a bit more relevant for Commander. So let's take a look at those.
Okay, Ral, Caller of Storms, 4 blue, red, 4 loyalty to start. So 6 mana for 4 loyalty, +1, draw a card. I mean, it doesn't protect itself, but again, we're drawing cards, we're getting more resources to protect ourselves. -2, 3 damage divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. That's negligible. -7, draw 7 cards. Ral, Caller of Storms, deals 7 damage to each creature your opponents control. That's a significant ultimate, and my only like plus for this one is just like, maybe that ultimate isn't so scary at first that like people ignore it for a turn or two until it's like a little bit too late to deal with it. I don't know.
Yeah, like in a Super Friends deck, this is one of the last ones you care about killing because, yeah, sure, it's a board wipe, or one-sided board wipe for that matter, but yeah, I don't know. It's okay, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's all that good either. Planeswalkers just need to be so good for Commander. They need to be they get attacked from all your opponents. They draw so much hate that these ones are not really pulling the weight here.
I've got a theory.
Okay.
Maybe bad Planeswalkers are good for Commander because like I drop Ral. Okay, 6 mana to draw a card out of return is way overcosted. But
yeah, Staff of Nin does it, and you can't attack a Staff of Nin.
That's true. But like, maybe they won't want to attack Ral. I guess all I'm saying is like, if they want to attack Ral, they're gonna have to throw away 1 or 2 creatures because you're gonna have 1 or 2 profitable blocks that they're just like, okay, you'll get Ral, but I'll get a couple of yours while you're at it.
Yeah.
So then maybe it's like, well, I'm not going to be the one to get rid of Ral. Ral's not good enough. I'm not going to waste my resources. I'll let you do it. And so then they're like, well, I'm not going to do it. So then you draw another card.
Yeah.
And then the same thing happens. And then when Ral's at 6, they're like, well, one of us has to do it. It's like, and then I don't know. And then when
that's exactly what happens, right? Is like when it's about to ultimate, that's when people do go and they're going, okay, well, I'll just hit Ral so it doesn't ultimate. So it's like, okay, because you're not really using that -2 very often, I don't think, in Commander. So so that's the part that bugs me is that like there's no other relevant ability. I'm either drawing cards, which is good, don't get me wrong, or I'm waiting for this ultimate to happen, which you may or may not ever see. You probably won't. I'd like to get a. I like getting a relevant minus ability, and this one I don't think is.
That's true. Well, maybe the other Vraska does better.
Yeah, let's see what she's got. Vraska Regal Gorgon. 7 mana for this one, so this is a big one. 5 and black and green for legendary Vraska. She's 5 loyalty +2, So put her up to 7 loyalty right away after 7 mana. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. That creature gains a menace until end of turn. That is a pretty small effect for 7 mana and the turn you cast it. But it also has -3, destroy target creature. Okay. And then -10, the ultimate is for each creature card in your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. -10.
I think hers is the worst ultimate.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, it's not great. Yeah,
it doesn't give them trample.
No, it's overrun, but only counter permanently. Yeah, it's a lot of conditions there.
So let's assume that the ultimate is off the table.
Yeah.
Then what are we getting?
We're getting a 7 mana destroy target creature, and then give some a little bit of a pump and some evasion. Ugh. Not my favorite.
Tough one. I think I like Ral better than this for some reason. Maybe it's just the decks I like to play, but I don't love either of them.
Me neither. I don't. Yeah. I mean, the menace could be relevant, I suppose, and the destroy target creature surely is. So let's not, forget about that. But for 7 mana, you need a lot to happen. And planeswalkers are so fragile that I don't ever really want to run a 7 mana planeswalker unless it's something incredible. And this is not incredible. Surprise, surprise. Planeswalkers aren't all that good in Commander unless you're really dedicating your whole deck to them and protecting them and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But even then, I don't think these ones are all that good. Maybe one of the Rals can go in or something. But yeah. Right. Well, there you go. The legendaries of this set are not that impressive, whether they be planeswalkers or creatures.
Yeah, I haven't seen a ton of legendaries I'm curious to build around.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any legendaries that are must includes in a 99 that just I've seen a few spells that I really want to have fun building around.
Yes.
Most of them are in sort of the Is It realm, which is sort of how my mind works anyway. That's my favorite guild personally.
It's my least favorite, and maybe not my least favorite actually nowadays. It used to be, but not anymore. But anyways, I feel the same way though. So it's not just your own, bias coming in there.
I think I am very excited to draft this set. I think it's going to be super fun to draft, but I don't think it's going to add a ton to Commander beyond a few commons and uncommons that you're just going to want to add in a lot of decks.
Yeah, agreed. I think again, outside of the Chromatic Lantern, which is the best Commander card in the whole set, there's stuff like that, Crush Contraband.
Yeah.
And Circuitous Route. Those are kind of the cards I'm excited about, which are very utility. Those are blue collar spells, man. Those guys are just getting in there, doing their work, and they're punching out at, punch in at 9, punch out at 5, or whatever.
You know what? They keep the country moving.
Exactly. They really do. They're the middle class of Commander, and you really need them.
You don't let your deck be the 1%.
No, don't. Yeah. Which is what those planeswalkers want to be. They want you to be that 1% deck, but you need those others. You need your Crush Contrabands and all that. So yeah, those are the cards I'm honestly the most excited about. I think aside from what we're talking about here with those cards, I do think Omnispell Adept, the blue, the pay 3 and tap it to cast an instant source from your hand for free. That card's sweet, and we talked about it a bunch. But Divine Visitation, I think, is so big and crazy.
Yeah.
And like you said, a couple of Is It spells look fun. It's not like it's. We get the most excited about the legendaries because we can make them commanders, and you'd think you'd get a bunch of great ones in a multicolored set like this. I'm a little disappointed, but there are still some cool things in here. But you're right. Overall, as a commander set, what's it going to add? Not as much as we'd like, I don't think.
Especially considering it's a multicolor set.
Yeah.
Right? The expectations is we're going to get multicolor commanders. There has to be legendaries. That's how Ravnica works.
Yeah, not this time. What do you think, Leia? What do you think? Only if you're watching YouTube can you see little Leia. But she didn't seem that impressed with it either, to be honest. But yeah, get out there, draft it, play it on Arena when it comes out. Because Arena is now an open beta, so that's fun. Everyone can get in on that now. That's going to be lots of fun.
as we record this, it is currently down for maintenance. So when it opens back up, you'll be able to jump in and get Guilds of Ravnica.
I hope so, right? Yeah, they must be. Must be.
Isn't that why? Like, would they give it to us before the pre-release?
No, yeah, you're right. You're totally right. It's gonna be on there for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, thanks for listening. This was an epic experiment, an epic episode. The set reviews always are. Thanks for listening to the whole thing if you have, and give us that review on iTunes. Hit subscribe, whatever media you're consuming this in. That would be really great. And we will see you next week we're going to be brewing around some Guilds of Ravnica cards. So we'll see which ones made it into our brains next week. Until then, see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.
Big thanks to all our patrons who make these episodes possible.
Yeah, and if you want to check out more comedy videos, check out our Brews News playlist.
Make sure you follow us on Twitch TV to see when we play live.
If you want to chat with us, head over to Twitter. We're @CommandersBrew.
And please hit subscribe to ding the bell and find out when we got new stuff coming out.
See you next time.
Bye.